Good morning. This is a special meeting for Rio Blanco County. This meeting will be streamed live on the RBC YouTube channel. And we will be calling this meeting to order at 10:34, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment period. Any member of the public may address the board on matters which are within the jurisdiction of the board. If you are addressing the board regarding a matter listed on the agenda, you're requested to limit your comments to 3 minutes per member or 5 minutes per group. The public comment time is not for questions and answers. It is your time to express your views. To ensure there's adequate public comment time, please provide your name and address prior to the meeting by contacting the board assistant at 970-878-9575. If any member of the public would like to comment at this time, please state your name and address for the record. Is there any public online? Thank you. Any, do we have any here in the room? No. This is a tentative agenda, which includes all information available as of April 11th, 2025. The final tentative agenda will be posted at the RBC Historic Courthouse, 555 Main Street, Meeker, Colorado, and at the Rangeley Town Hall, 209 East Main Street, Rangeley. I would entertain
Madam Chairman, I move to approve the April 15th, 2025 agenda without changes.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Will you please call the roll, Sean?
Scritchfield. Aye. Overton.
Aye.
O'Hare.
Aye. Moving on to consent items, line item A.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve the consent agenda, which includes the payroll management report for April 11th.
Second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any conversation on that from either of you? Sean, will you please call the roll?
Scritchfield. Aye. Overton.
Aye.
O'Hare.
Aye.
Sorry. Excellent.
Item 3, business A, we will be hearing a presentation from Michaela Sheridan from Public Health regarding an education on measles.
So I just wanted to give a brief overview of what measles is, and then I'll kind of go into some statistics here. So what is measles? So next slide.
I like yours. Pretty.
So what is measles? Measles is a vaccine-preventable viral infection. It's highly contagious and it's an airborne disease. It spreads by breathing, coughing, sneezing. It can remain in the air or on surfaces for up to 2 hours. It's most common in children, but can also affect adults. And MMR vaccine is the best way to prevent measles. The signs and symptoms. Symptoms include high fever, cough, runny nose, maculopapular rash, red and watery eyes, small white spots inside the cheeks. Symptoms usually begin 10 to 14 days after you're exposed to measles. The prominent rash is the most visible symptom. They call it like a bucket rash. It usually starts like on your head, face, or neck, and then moves down. Rash starts about 7 to 18 days after exposure, and it spreads in about 3 days to the hands and feet and usually lasts 5 to 6 days. Person is contagious about 4 days before the rash appears and 4 days after. Oh, that's good.
I think we got.
Should be on. That's okay, Kristen. There we go. Complications. Most deaths related to measles are actually from complications related to the disease. So the most common complication is pneumonia. Other complications include blindness, encephalitis, diarrhea, and subsequent dehydration and ear infections. Complications are most common in children under 5 and those deficient in vitamin A or with a weak immune system. Measles itself can weaken the immune system. The body essentially forgets how to protect itself, and that's why most children are really vulnerable. So treatment, all children and adults with measles should receive vitamin A supplements. This restores low vitamin A that can occur even in well-nourished children. It can also prevent eye damage and prevent blindness. If someone gets pneumonia, treatment with the right antibiotics is essential. And supportive measures include drinking enough water and eating a healthy diet. So prevention, I know I mentioned the MMR vaccine is the best way to prevent measles. Children should receive 2 doses of the MMR vaccine. Usually they start at 12 months and then they can get their second dose between 4 and 6 years. That's just the recommended schedule. And the measles vaccine has been around since 1963, so we do consider it safe and effective. So a little bit about Rio Blanco MMR vaccine rates. So in Rangeley, we have a very, very high vaccine rate, which is great. The school nurses have really done a great job with getting all of the school-age children in to get vaccinated. So Parkview Elementary School has a 99% vaccination rate. Rangeley High School has a 98.9% vaccination rate. Meeker Elementary School has a 99%, Barone Middle School 100%, and Meeker High School 100%. So that's pretty impressive compared to a lot of other places. So recommendations for children. So although the risk remains low in the US due to high immunization coverage, if your child isn't vaccinated, you can contact us for a vaccine appointment. Our Vaccines for Children program provides free vaccines to children without health insurance, or if they're underinsured, or people with Medicaid as well. We also provide vaccines for those with insurance, and a lot of people don't know that, I don't think. So our VaxCare program covers people with insurance. So either way, the vaccine is going to be covered at no cost to the person. So anyone that's listening, please contact Karen or myself with any questions about the vaccine. Recommendations for adults. So they keep changing this a little bit. So this is just the most recent data that I have. So if you're born before 1957, you have presumed measles exposure. So most likely you already had measles as a kid and you don't need to get the vaccine. If you are born before 1957 and you lack laboratory evidence of immunity, which means if you got a titer and you don't show immunity to MMR, then and you're a healthcare personnel, then you should get a booster dose. If you were vaccinated before 1968, you should also get a booster dose. And then if you have never received the MMR vaccine and don't have natural immunity, which means measles exposure, you should get the MMR vaccine. So in the media, you may have heard of a case in Texas where a girl died of measles. The Children's Health Defense found that this was actually mostly due to a medical error. The child had bacterial pneumonia from contracting measles that was not treated properly. She received an antibiotic that didn't cover the type of bacteria that she actually had, which was mycoplasma. So by the time they switched to an appropriate antibiotic, which would have been azithromycin, it was too late and she was already on a ventilator. So appropriate tests and the right antibiotic can save lives from complications of measles. So it's usually not actually measles that's killing people, it's complications from measles, which is usually pneumonia. So I would really caution people to be too worried about this right now, just because we don't have any cases in Rio Blanco County, and we only have 3 in Colorado total. So it's not required to wear N95 masks right now. This is not a pandemic. So I would just caution against the alarmist mindset.
Can you share with us with where out in Colorado those 3 that have contracted the measles?
Yeah, so there was one in Pueblo County. Yeah, in Pueblo County, one in Denver, and, one in, I think, Archuleta.
They were totally unrelated to him, I think.
Yeah, and they were totally unrelated to each other. I will keep you updated if we do have any cases.
So the date 1957 before and shingles. How does all of that work together? Shingles is what happens.
Yeah, so shingles is related to the chicken pox.
Oh, it's chicken pox, not
Yeah.
measles. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
so shingles is a little bit different. We do have the vaccine for shingles as well. And that's also a 2-dose series.
That happens to older people. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think they recommend getting that if you're older than 55.
Just like that.
If you've never had the chicken pox or to get the shingle shot, or
They recommend that everyone over the age of 50 get shingles.
have they changed the formula at all on the shingle shot over the years?
They have, yes, because it used to be 1 dose at one point and now it's 2. So, and if people have it before a certain time period, we have to start it all over. Series. So,
The booster you've indicated since 68. The booster.
yeah.
So if you've had a booster, like to say you're born before then,
Mhm.
not me, but other people. Get a shot as a young adult. Does that mean that you should get a booster or not?
Yes. If you only had 1 shot and then you should have.
So if you had one as a kid and then one as a young adult,
Oh, no, then you should be okay.
then you should be okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm pretty sure I got one in the army too.
Oh, okay, well, yeah.
When they removed
That
my
friend.
spleen, they do that.
Not me.
Did you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just, yeah, so 3 years ago, but yeah, they said that all that immunity resided in the spleen, so I guess if you lose your spleen, you need to get redosed.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. I didn't know you had that.
If there is an outbreak, they will supply us with doses.
Yeah.
They're the ones that will keep track of it, and if there's an outbreak, they have like 3,000 extra in the state right now. That they've gotten from the federal government, so we should be good.
I think I know the answer to this, but why all of a sudden are we having troubles?
Always had troubles.
Yeah.
It's
It's-
just more in the news.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's actually nothing new because when we had the migrant population and a couple other instances too, like in 2019, there were over 1,000 cases of measles, but we didn't hear about it.
Really?
Mhm. So,
How much news they want to give you and
Yeah.
what is,
Slow news day. So I needed a news story.
I think there's over 500 cases in the United States right now, about 550, I think is what we're at.
and we can test for measles too.
I was just gonna ask that because you would, on your recommendations for adults, you were talking about lack of laboratory evidence of immunity. I was gonna ask, so what do they do with that to test that to see if they need to have a shot?
So we can't test for the immunity, but
Okay.
that's a titer, so you would have to actually go get your blood drawn.
Oh, okay.
For that part of it.
Okay.
But we can test for the actual disease of measles. We have the state sent us supplies to be able to test for it.
If someone has measles, we can test them like we did for COVID. And it'll.
so you just take a picture of their spots and,
I wish it-
I mean, That should be pretty obvious.
Right there. Yeah.
My mom.
No, you're right. You're right. It will be
Very
pretty obvious, I
obvious.
think. If somebody has measles, it's gonna be pretty obvious.
So how do you test then? What do you guys do with this test kit?
So you can do the nasopharyngeal, which is the same kind of as what we did with the COVID, like kind of way back in there, not so comfortable of a test.
As you say, I remember doing that, ain't doing that.
Yeah. Or you can do an oral swab too.
Oh, okay.
So either one of those. And then we have to send it to the lab, to the state lab. So we can't test for it in office, but we would send it to the state. That way.
I guess I want to reiterate the mask component,
Yes,
that is not going to
no, but there's just no.
stop the spread.
No.
Okay.
If it was here, the thing is if somebody contracts measles, the state's gonna be involved and that person is gonna be quarantined. All of the things, and especially with no measles cases in Rio Blanco County, it's just does not make sense to be wearing masks. This is not a pandemic. That's silly.
I'd have to get N95. Someone cough. On you, I would have to get N95 mask and fitted properly. Those people.
That's the other component too, I think that people don't understand is most people have to get fit tested for an N95 or it's not gonna give you the coverage that you actually need. So, and it's airborne, so it would have to be an N95 to spread it.
That's still not 100% either though, correct?
Not always.
Any other questions?
Oh, I don't have any questions.
No, thank you
All right.
for doing this. We
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Other counties surrounding your areas that you know that, like other surrounding areas know that they get cases? Oh, okay.
Yeah, there'll be a dashboard on CDPHE website if anybody wants to look at it. I'll tell you exactly where the measles cases are. If you're curious.
I should have put that on here, because there is a link that you can click and see where they are exactly.
Even the surrounding counties, I'm sure it's from.
I just worry about kids traveling for sports, you know, to be notified if like you're going over to Garfield.
You would be notified if you are exposed. I will note.
And luckily our kids are at a 99 to or 98.9 to
Yeah, that's pretty
100%,
wild.
which is amazing.
It really
Like a
is.
shout out to those school nurses for having those rates I'm shocked actually. I'm glad to see it, but I'm that is amazing.
We're really.
Good.
Even last year. We were 92 to 95.
Oh, wow.
Good.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good day, ladies.
Thanks for coming over.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Moving on to line item 3, business B.
Madam Chairman, I move to approve the ratification of a letter to Governor Polis requesting he veto Senate Bill 25-003, the Semi-Automatic Firearm Rapid Fire Devices Act.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second. Do we want to go into, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but is there anything else you want to add to this?
Nothing more than, I mean, I'm glad that we did make the request, but he turned around and signed it later in the afternoon. So there are some other counties that are also making waves on it. And the sheriff's office joined on ours. So that was good.
Garfield County put out a press release this morning about how they oppose it, and a lot of good information.
Good. So no slowing him down.
Not on his agenda.
Mhm.
Will you please call the roll?
Litchfield,
Overton,
Aye.
O'Hare.
Aye. Moving on to line item C.
So I would move to approve a master service agreement with SGM Inc. for on-call engineering services.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Do either of you have questions?
No, I thank you for getting that done.
Want me to kind of say what it is?
Mhm.
But basically what this is an agreement that's, allows us to do work orders, engineering for the bridges and other projects that we have, mainly bridges. So if we get an opportunity, we don't have to go through it and go through the process in order to get that. We can just do a task order, a work order with this firm, and then have this firm help us design and get the information we need together to do the engineering project for the bridges. We have a couple of bridges right now that are kind of unnecessary that we're going to have to deal with if we get the opportunity. We've sent it out to them. Hopefully they won't make any substantial changes when we get this locked in. But it does. It allows us to save some time and move a lot faster on these projects, especially when we're looking at agreement.
If I might mention that they are located in Glenwood, so their response time's a lot quicker than our previous engineering company, which was out of Denver. So we've had several meetings with them, with Road and Bridge, and it just seems like they're going to be very responsive. And when we need quick projects, hopefully they'll have somebody up right away.
And they even have people here in town.
Yes.
That they do it. So when we met with them, I was impressed because they had 3 or 4 people here that we actually visited with, and then they had some people on video wells. And they assured us they have the capabilities and everything to do this. They've done other projects throughout the area. They have the expertise.
My only comment is really 45 pages worth of contract. I'm sorry. I just have to say.
No one gets paid by the page.
The least amount of time, it takes time to break them down, and what we borrow heavily off of the Lisa County agreement that's similar to the.
Really?
Really.
That's all I can say. That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. As long as you got us covered.
I hope so.
All right.
I couldn't think of anything that was missing.
I hope not.
I actually looked that up when I Googled it. Curious, like what's the average length of a government? And there really wasn't an answer out there.
Mhm.
But there was a blog where you had government employees saying, stop, it's causing brain damage.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that was a comment. Like us having to read through all of this is brain damage for some of us. I did, and I can't find it now, but when I was reading through it, there was a section that talked about if there was a change in, and I can't find it, and it's the fee schedule that the consultant has the first right to have input over the county. And did I read that incorrectly? And again, I can't find it now.
There's a change. We do have a renegotiation provision.
Okay.
If they come in, so if the county, they propose a increase in the fees that we don't agree to, then there is a renegotiation provision.
Okay.
I don't think they can basically just tell the county we're going to pay whatever it is. This agreement is designed to be kind of an ongoing contract. I hate the term living contract because the words they say what they say, but it's a contract that's designed to be a little bit flexible under certain circumstances. So when we have a project, for example, we get a chance to do one of the bridges that we're looking at right now. We have the work order is going to be really important because that's going to really define the specifics of that particular project. And so that's where we really need to look at it. It's gonna be much shorter, it's gonna be much easier, much faster, but that should lock us into that particular project. So that's why this is looks like more flexible. When we do the work orders, though, they should be a lot tighter and easier to go with. There is a provision that talks about, if they do end up, removing key personnel for a project or things like that, they have to come and let us know, and we have input on that. The point we terminate the contract if we don't feel that their replacement people are going to be competent to do the work.
I did read that and I like that section. So, okay, thank you. Anything else?
I'm good.
Don, will you please call the roll?
Overton,
Aye.
O'Hare.
Aye.
Scritchfield.
Moving on to business line item D.
Madam Chairman, I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement for the Community Development Block Grant Project with Northwest Loan Fund.
A second, for the sake of discussion.
I have a motion and a second. I will open the floor to you two. I thought we had already done this.
That was my thought.
We had already talked about it. We agreed to do it, but they didn't include the actual IGA with the packet. So we didn't actually approve that. And Chrissy, got a hold of me and said, hey, they're saying that we needed to have the agreement done. So I looked at it, and it's aligned with what we talked about in the packet that they did present. So since we were having a meeting today, I thought it was better to have you guys consider the actual agreement versus approving it based on our discussion and agreement to join the group. So that's why it's before you today.
I think we had this proposal in Rangeley
Mhm.
where the lady came and talked to us.
Yeah,
We agreed to do it. We just never followed up.
Well, and you guys did approve, a portion of it, but with the paperwork that she did send over, I did not see the IGA. I've gone back through the paperwork she sent to me that you guys approved on March 11th. And I could not find the IGA included in that document.
And I looked as well, and that's why I said we probably ought to bring it up since we're having a special.
Perfect.
so how is it connected to the next agenda item? The sheriff's use of force
We'll talk about
policy.
on that.
They are connected.
I think the connection is more in the, they like to make sure that we have various policies when we do things like this with the state in this group. And it really has nothing to do with the block grant. So in that it doesn't, but that's one of the requirements that we have special policies, and that's one of the policies that they changed within the packet.
In this situation, it might not control us. I mean, it might not be something we don't disagree with, but it's one of their ways of controlling our policies.
Correct. And then that's the thing that a little frustrating that they're given screens that aren't necessarily related to what they're doing. For example, these bridge grants that they're doing, they've got several things that have nothing to do with building the bridge that they make us show that we're compliant. Or if we don't, they have the right to pull the funding, things like that.
So those kinds of policies or whatever, our legislators need to understand and know what's going on. That is not, because the legislature isn't the one creating that, right? Those are through rules and regulations is my guess.
Yeah.
And that needs to get a handle on.
it. And lately, there's been more and more of that.
Yeah.
Where they've delegated that rulemaking decisions to group. In fact, we just looked at a bill that was creating another group that was going to make it new rules.
Can we consider that as overreach?
Oh, I think it
Like
is.
big time.
The money is the problem.
Yeah.
Well,
It just strikes me weird because Governor Polis thinks that President Trump is doing some overreach, so he should pay attention to some of his overreach.
Well, that's the thing is we've been doing it internally within the state, using things that have typically been just a matter of, flow throughs from the state to the local government entity. And let the local government entities rule local, government, with the recognition that Boulder County is going to need or want different things than Rio Blanco County versus, the other counties. And they want to be able to control some of the counties that don't have the same type of policies that they do at the state government.
So would you start kind of tracking those scenarios when we run into those? So, because I think this summer we need to have a conversation with some legislators and perhaps others that this isn't okay.
Yeah,
And we need, because the public or nobody knows this stuff happens. It's all just happened back door.
Yeah.
And so I think that we need to start tracking those. And so we've got a couple of good, easy examples to reach out to and say, here's what we're talking about.
if this comes to fruition at all, then we could address in an executive session, but there's been some discussion among counties, typically more of the rural counties on what because the state is supposed to, there's a state statute out there that says that we're not supposed to receive unfunded mandate in a certain sense. One of the things that we're having discussions on is how can a local government, how can a county deal with that? Because every time that we sued the state under these things, that we basically dismissed it based on the fact that the theory that local government does not, because it's a subdivision of the state itself, you can't sue yourself. And the thing that local government doesn't have the ability to test these things by suing the state. So we're talking about other options to be able to press the state government in dealing with unfunded mandates, and that's one of the things. And we're pretty early on at some point, but I have a feeling that I'll be asking for for us to talk specifically about some of the things that we're going to do. You probably need to do it in an executive session. Let you guys fill in on some of the things that we're doing, especially if we can get several other counties, the rural counties, to go in as a block. And we're going to have to deal with it one way or the other. Well, that might be a thing, because we've tried twice now to sue the state over things like this, and both the times it's just been.
But this is a policy that's already been in place with the sheriff's office prior to this request.
They should have one, yes.
It's vetted through Anthony.
So on that particular thing, so Anthony's had a use of force that they have followed through. I don't know, one of those questions maybe to, and Chrissy can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if he's read through their use of force. I think all we're doing is adopting his we're
current.
putting that into resolution, his use of force policy,
Yeah.
not a separate one.
This is the policy that they have, that they already go by.
They just said that if we were going to accept the loan funds, again, we haven't received any loan funds as long as this has been going on. Rio Blanco County hasn't. So I don't know that it will necessarily ever come up, but Anthony had adopted that use of force. It's been in this agreement every year that we've signed it, which has been sporadically. They've never required us to show the resolution. So we've just said, yeah, we have a use of force policy, but this time they actually want to see that. Right.
And they want it in a resolution form.
They want it in a resolution form.
And if we don't,
Then we just don't get the loan money, which we've never gotten anyways. I will tell you, previous years, commissioners have really struggled with this particular funding. And I don't know the dates, but I did have some old files on it. And this conversation that I tend to run around is that there's golden strings attached to it. So, they have struggled with that in the past.
What happens if we just say no?
So
but we don't get the money.
Loan that we haven't used.
we haven't gotten them anyways, right?
That's my point, is we make a statement.
And it typically goes, Chrissy did some research on it, the funding the meetings on it. Wasn't this the one where they're gonna do the meetings?
Yeah, they did it all up in the Eagle area. So, all of the public meetings that they have held that, at least in the documentation, was done in the Eagle and Vale area.
Well, Legal County's the, fiscal agent for this as well.
And these block grants are for,
This one's for housing.
Yeah, it's for HUD homes and the excessive force portion was in 1990. There was an amendment to the HUD housing, and how you can get that was to prove that you're not going to be using excessive force for the people that are receiving the HUD housing. And it's part of the documentation that is included in the packet was the information that it went over. It was a 1990 amendment to the HUD housing.
It's also for economic development, and we have had somebody in Rio Blanco apply and get those funds. I don't remember which one. She had it in her handout, her booklet when she shared that with us in Rangeley. But I'm struggling making the connection of HUD housing versus economic development on this force on this loan. Are they going to force people with economic development? Or I'm struggling to make that connection. I'm missing something.
No, I don't think there is a great connection.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's likely.
I've been, like you said, overreach.
Yeah. And, and the thing is, I'd recommend the sheriff's office have a use of force
well,
policy
yeah,
together with all the other policies.
Yeah.
That's-
I don't have a problem with that.
but
It,
that's
they have
really
no
not that
business,
yet.
it's not their business
No.
with this.
I think.
So where are we at? Are we on the,
Well,
We're still in the intergovernmental agreement.
right, on D.
We're still on D. We haven't moved on to E,
okay,
which is, we're now having the conversation.
Yeah,
of
because we
E.
went
yeah.
over to it.
Well, and I'm sorry, but I still, I mean, so do we want to approve D? And,
well, in my opinion is we approved D and I'm gonna vote no on E.
okay, let's finish up D. Sorry, I sidetracked us. Surprise, surprise.
John,
Jennifer tried to keep me from.
I was trying in a nice way, and I probably should have said, we can't have this conversation yet till the next one.
Well, so how are they? Okay,
I'm with you. Sean, will you please call the roll?
Scritchfield,
I.
O'Hare,
Aye.
Overton.
All right,
That motion passes. Moving on to line item E.
So in my parliamentary procedure, you don't do a motion in a negative. So,
meaning you can't move to deny it.
No,
You
you're
would
not
table
supposed
it.
to. You're supposed to move to approve it, and if you're gonna deny.
then you vote, you vote it down.
Yeah, you vote it down or
Right, so-
do something else to fill it.
Okay, so I will move to approve. Madam Chair. I will move to approve the signing of the current sheriff's office use of force policy for the North. You know what? I'm just gonna say that we approve it. We don't need to approve it for the Northwest Loan Fund. I'm having a conversation in my motion, sorry. Okay. I move to approve the signing of the current sheriff's office use of force policy for the Northwest Loan Fund.
It could die.
You lack a second, will die. Yes, you're right.
Fill it.
There it is.
I would like this to bring in for discussion so I can say something about the use of force policy. Let's second it. By denial.
Like, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it.
Second it for the
Sake of discussion.
purpose of discussion.
So yes,
So I think it's important that for the Rio Blanco County Sheriff's Office to have a use of force policy. And I would, I think that if this dies, the fact that we haven't done a resolution regarding this, we're not saying anything regarding the policy. So
No,
that this is more of a statement with the powers that be, that we don't like this tied to the funding, the block grant funding. And so I just kind of want it on record that this is not a denial or a statement that we don't agree with the use of force policy. I think the sheriff ought to have one, and that should be within the sheriff's office and using the information and resources that the sheriff has in order to develop that rather than tie it in. So that's okay if you guys would agree with that.
okay, so I have Mr. Mazzola on the
Ah.
phone right now, so how do I? Yes, sir.
I'm glad.
Did you hang up on me?
Maybe he should call into have him call into the Google Meet. Chrissy, could you somehow get, Anthony on here?
Hang on, we're gonna try to reach you. Yeah, I think it would be great to have him a part of this conversation.
I agree.
Ready to go.
I don't know if he has really good service because I've been texting him today and sometimes it's delivering and sometimes it's taking like an
Oh.
hour to get
So he's
delivered.
out of service
So he
somewhere.
must be out of service somewhere and he's responding to me when he has service. Right now it's not going through, which tells me he doesn't have service right now.
That may be why he went dead on my
Mhm,
phone.
mhm.
Okay,
I guess we can,
we could table it until he
Yeah.
is available. Okay.
so how do we do that since we've got a motion on the floor?
I think we can.
We can't. That's why I was saying we probably should table them.
No, you can postpone it
Yeah.
after there's a motion.
Till,
Mhm.
they're pass it.
Yeah, it's a,
Bring it back up in the meeting. I don't think you have to table it, just pass it over for, finish up your agenda. and then
So
bring it
let's
back.
do.
We can go back to it.
Yeah, I think the chairman, all the chairman has, this, we'll pass this for now, bring it up, before we leave, and then you need to dispose of it.
Voting
in
on it.
this meeting, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, in this meeting.
I thought we could table it to another meeting
Well,
even
you can
after
do
you
that as
have,
Well, yeah,
okay,
but if you just want to pass it down the agenda, and I think
Okay.
the chairman can make that decision. We're waiting for somebody or we're doing something. So we're going to pass this until, later in this meeting. But before the meeting ends, we need to either table it or we need to dispose of it.
okay.
Yeah, he's out of the country right now. So
Here we go. Yeah.
yes,
Oh, no
he
wonder
just
he's
responded to me.
done. Okay,
Um,
so let's table it to the next meeting,
I'll leave it at
because I think a
okay, so
table,
the motion is going to stay open until what's the next meeting?
May
May
13th.
11th.
Until May 13th, 2025. We have a motion and a second on the floor for an approval. But tabling it until we can have to have the sheriff's office here to discuss this policy further with us.
So I will make that motion to table it.
second.
Although, or I was gonna just do a quorum. Sean, will you please call the roll?
Overton.
Aye.
Scritchfield.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to line item F.
Okay, is that me?
Yeah.
Madam Chairman, I move to approve a non-criminal justice agency user agreement for the CJIS systems access. This gives Laura the ability to do background checks through the FBI and CBI.
I will second. Wait a minute. Thinking this might be worth tabling as well. I think these are some conversations maybe that would be good to have with Anthony.
This doesn't have anything to do with the sheriff's office.
This is based,
Yeah, this allows me to do, fingerprint background checks as required by state statute for our caseworkers. For human services. That's all this allows.
But I have a ton of questions that I think Anthony needs to be here to, because
To fill us in.
yes, there's, I know I have a ton of questions. I don't know about these two, but I know I do. I mean, I guess with yours, I kind of, I'm there. Carmen's, I'm struggling with. So,
They're very similar. This is for the audit. It's on a 3-year cycle. This is a repeat from 3 years ago, which you signed. And
We signed this 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Or someone did.
yeah, it's a repetitive deal that's under, both the, let's see, the federal, what do they call it? National safety for children, our adult protection and those with disabilities. My code for this is strictly as an employer to do the background checks on case workers, for adult protection workers.
So what do you have access to on the CBI?
What I do is they give me a code. And I assign the code to the applicant or the prospective employee. They go to, Rangeley. I think we now have one in Meeker, that just started to Identigo. And they get a fingerprint check done and they send it into the FBI and the CBI. And then I get the results back. And only I can look at the results. I can say they're, we're good to hire or we're not.
So
And
that-
it determines on how we handle that information. I can't, share it with other people. I can't, how I store it. I can't store it on a thumb drive or a disk or those kind of things. With this audit, we also turn in like a diagram of our IT system. We have policies on, basically that I can't share it. I have to keep it in a locked cabinet, locked room.
Yeah.
All that. It's a security.
Yeah, so that's way different than the sheriff's office using the.
Yeah,
program.
they're criminal justice. Mine is non-criminal
Yeah.
agency.
Yeah, so
And then the one for Carmen is very similar, except hers allows them to check if they have to do for foster care family.
so when did we approve that? Because I'm with you, I remember yours. Because you've had that for years. You've had this access for years and I knew
Yes,
that.
yes.
It's the Carmen one and I'm going back through board files and I'm not finding it.
I've had one before because we just started doing local foster families. We've always hired that out. That's what Joey Thompson did. And when we hired her out, we go to our foster.
So the Carmen one's the new one.
It's a new one.
Okay, I
And
figured it was.
It's basically just related to the foster family program that we're doing internally now. So we don't have to continue to contract it out. We were having difficulties with our contractor on it. And so we're bringing it internal so we can keep those foster families and keep them certified, because we have 2 foster families basically decertified because the contractor we were using didn't keep up on it.
just the the pure fact of the way they do it, and the person has to approve of this, doing this by giving their fingerprints and they're agreeing to this. I don't have a problem. I didn't realize the process that they use, but I don't see a problem with the process they're using.
I do.
You
So let me ask you this, when does the current agreement expire?
Well, the audit is due today. And then they'll give you an extension till the 22nd.
Of this month?
I don't know, I could ask for another extension. It's pretty much, a lot of it is ruled under state statute too, that we have to, conduct the checks, on our caseworkers.
You'd be all right with approving this and then taking on the next.
So I will second. Yes, the one that you just did your motion on, after all that discussion. I'll second.
Well, that,
We have a motion and a second. So another question that I have is, I know that you have to go through some vigorous training to make sure you're not releasing certain information because they are tied to it being on the county. If information is released, we're the ones that are going to be held liable if that information is falsely released and or somebody accesses your information, your files as well as your login. That liability comes back on the county. So I know there's some vigorous training that I know you have gone through throughout the years.
Yes, and I updated mine yesterday.
Okay. So, but I guess that's where I question the second one that we're looking at approving, because I need to know that that training has commenced. And I get that they have 6 months from the time we approve it to do it, but I want it done because there's some litigation that could potentially happen if we falsely report on, if it's for a foster care, and let's say that they falsely report on that and it's a court document, that's going to put that back on the county. And that's why we've never had it before. We always relied on law enforcement to provide that information to us because we didn't want that. Sheriff's office knows what they can and can't release to us.
Unfortunately, they don't let law enforcement do it anymore. When I got my research, a few years ago, because I need it for my, child support enforcement, on that, was they basically the time before, I guess, so, it'd be 5 years. They had changed it because I used to just go to the sheriff's office
Mhm.
in Lamar. And then they would do my fingerprints and send it off there. And I had to make an Indigo appointment, which being a rural attorney really sucks. Now they got one across the street, I think. But, the last one I did, I had to go to Rangeley. And it's on particular days and you have to hold your breath when you do it and stand on one foot and all of that. So they don't let the law enforcement, or don't let you just go to law enforcement anymore to do that. And that was unfortunate because that was a lot more convenient. They'd take me whenever I could show up generally because I was usually thinking, I know people at the things, and maybe that's one of the reasons they don't. You have to take.
I guess another question that I have too is what is the cost to the county to add another user on there? Because I know that costs the county. So what does that cost to add somebody else on there? And is IT involved in this conversation too? I had a lot of, like I said, I had a lot of questions because I knew Carmen was new.
Just from speaking on my side,
Mhm.
Trevor was, because he had to send me like the diagrams of the
Oh,
stuff and all the IT for the background check.
for CBI.
So we did work with him. A lot of the stuff is copied from the last audit too, that hasn't changed.
the price, is I pay for the employees. Is it $55 for each fingerprint check? Otherwise, I don't pay any other funding to, to the state or to sign up my application or anything. But I do pay out of my budget for the background check.
I think DH is the same way that when we run a foster family, and I know when I got mine, it was the same thing, that it was like $55 that was paid, and I had to take a little sheet there showing that it had been paid with my number on it. And so I went to Rangeley, that they only had that, was the closest one. Rangeley gave it to them, they took my fingerprint. I never even saw my results. I'm pretty sure they still let me do it.
Haven't denied you.
So do you do background checks on all employees or just the ones with
For
DHS?
this purpose, it's only, on the caseworkers.
Okay.
And then like for your adult protection workers, we also do a tax check through a different system. For us, our caseworkers, usually we have one that's a combined minority. We don't have them separate.
For non-DHS personnel, what do you do? I mean,
Just a reference
Really
check. Well, I mean, there's some that require like the CAPS check if they work with the elderly, which is a different system. Your basic employee, like, room bridge, like a reference check or something.
but that does not go through this program.
No, the only thing that goes through this program is our case workers. That's all my, for employment purposes. All my requests.
Not public health. No. Interesting, since they work with the elderly and we have to have a specific background check on CCAP with adult services and adult protection. But we don't with public health.
No, it's a
Okay.
top part.
Okay, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. That probably started some legislation.
They're busy doing other damage right now. They're not listening. Gotta go through state razor for
Maybe
that
adult
pot.
protection workers and, because we have to do it for people that are like conservators and things like that. If they're on that, these are people that probably have more direct ability to influence an elderly person in order to try to extort or to try to embezzle funds from the elderly, where public health would have a more difficult time doing it, I think, in any kind of manner that official.
Sure.
So I think that's probably the reason why those type of people, the protection and things like that, need a specific CAPS check where public health may not.
Trevor, did you have something?
No, I was just gonna say that we also, on top of all the things that you've been talking about, I don't know where we're at in the meeting, I'm sorry. But we do for CGIS purposes. Anyone who enters like our data centers, anywhere that might see CGIS, they also have CBI or a fingerprint background check.
Mm.
And a lot of us even have to do CGIS training. And
So you're already doing all of that based on what Laura's access that you have to have.
His is stringent because his is for the criminals.
Yeah.
And mine is non,
but they want. to
I'm a
take
non-criminal agency that's checking.
Yeah, CGIS
Law
is the
enforcement.
same.
Yeah.
We already have all the policies, built, all the diagrams.
Okay. Okay,
So I think we're ready for a vote on that.
any more from you? Or you? No. Sean, will you please call the roll?
Richfield?
Aye.
O'Haron? Aye. Overton?
Aye.
Now that she's approved it, I just want to say that Jennifer gets to sign it along with mine so that we can both go to jail together.
Good. Oh, no, that's why we have Dawn, because I just brought up that there's litigation that's going to be tied to this and the liability.
It isn't that place to be anymore, though.
I just want to make sure that we're not releasing the information.
Uh-huh. That's where my hesitation comes in.
Because it's.
It is, there's huge liability. But I get why you have to, I know why you have to do it. I get it. And I'm almost there with Carmen. I'm just gonna have a lot more questions, and I think we need Anthony here for that.
And so does this pertain to the audit as well, or not just yours was?
We both have separate audits because we are under different, accounts.
Okay.
So I can imagine she can get an extension as well.
So Madam Chair, I'm gonna move to, table.
You gotta
The-
move it first.
Mm.
Carmen's been moved yet.
Yeah, but I don't think you have to move before you table it.
Just
You can
move
move
the
to
table.
table it,
Mhm.
I think.
That's not the way I remember Charlie Brown.
Okay, I think I can. I think I can.
We have done it before.
Okay, we'll try it this way and then we'll do it better next time we check it. I move to table the non-criminal justice agency user agreement for CJIS system access that gives Carmen McKay the ability to do background checks through the FBI and CBI until the first May meeting of May 13th.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to table till May 13th. Any other discussion? Will you please call the roll?
Richfield.
Aye.
Overton.
Aye.
O'Hare.
And if I could, just for a point of clarification, did E die for lack of second? Is that what I did?
No, we're tabling that one.
On E, we did it, okay, because I wrote down some.
We're tabling.
We can tables without a main motion.
And we after a main motion, so we did that too.
Well, after, yeah, you can do it
Okay, either way,
You can,
okay.
you can have a main motion discussion, find out that you don't have all the information. You can table that, or and I always thought you had to have a main motion, then you take.
Okay. So both ways, okay,
Yeah,
very good.
Rich Ellsworth probably talking wrong.
Moving on to resolutions, which we have none. Public hearings, we have none. Other business, we have none. So we will be adjourning this meeting at 11:36. And then when do we move? Oh, we're ready to move into, you guys need a break. We need a break. We're taking a recess for 10 minutes. All righty, we are going to get started on our special work session, ADA accessible technology discussion. This meeting will be streamed live on the RBC YouTube channel. And work sessions are intended to provide opportunities for the commissioners to study difficult issues, gather and analyze information, clarify problems, or give staff direction. No official decisions will be made. So we have this discussion with staff on the ADA accessibility technology and creation of the policy that we need to potentially implement. So who wants to get started? Do you want to get started, Ms. Vicky?
I can get started. So, the Rio Blanco County ADA team basically is comprised of Trevor, Dylan, Eric, Chrissy, Laura, Dawn, you, and me. So as you are aware, I mean, we've talked with other counties, and just to kind of give you a little background history, bigger counties, of course, are going to have their own staffing focused on this issue. Unfortunately, we're not to that size, so we've been trying to piecemeal this together. And I think, first of all, thank you for agreeing to do this. This is, I'm hopeful, going to get us to the point where we can adopt a formal policy and then move forward with everything. What I'm going to walk through for you today are the different options of possibly achieving ADA compliance within our county website. And the goal is then to select a solution that balances costs, legal risks, service continuity, and public trust. With the caveat that once we kind of pick a path, then we can develop the policy out, have our formal meeting with constituents, get their opinions, their feedback, and then implement the policy. Any questions on that? Okay. Please stop me if you have any questions. So what I've put together for you is a slideshow that covers 7 primary options. This is certainly a cafeteria plan. You could discuss other options or piecemeal of options together, but this formalizes that what staff believes is a ranking of options for you. Of course, these options range from a temporary shutdown to fully outsourcing. So from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other, and each carries its distinct pros and cons. And then we'll compare those across several different criteria. Okay. So without further ado, the first option is what I labeled a temporary suspension. It is actually could be a permanent suspension. It's basically what that would entail is us immediately taking down the website and suspend all live streaming video content. And then we could do that within a short period of time. I understand, Trevor. You can unlink that. So rbc.us just basically goes dead. And then we can make a plan to move forward and how you want to move forward. The estimated cost, very low cost, because we would suspend doing any of our other contracts for right now. The only thing that we retain is that $15,000 that goes to Civic Engage. The system, we would retain the Civic Engage system unless you decided, no, we just don't want to have a website ever again. If you wanted to continue to have a website, then if you wanted to stay with Civic Engage, that would be $15,000. Anything, Trevor?
Annually, right?
Annually, $15,000 annually is what we pay Civic.
Okay, just, excuse me, just for clarification, that's like our domain or to have our website is what they do.
They host and they provide the platform. And that's to sell certificates, and they don't do domain registry though. Everything.
The main registry, Trevor, would be what we do in our spare time.
Or registry is separate because we use it for things outside of the website.
Okay.
I use it for VPNs. I use it for other services that we do. The MDTs, scan access, things like that. A lot of networks backend stuff that we use that registry for. So we would keep that, and it's like $10 a year. It's separate.
I like that cost.
Probably a little more than that, but it's not much.
So again, this is a very quick hit. It doesn't plan for the future. It's just, this is a right now solution. You push a button, it goes away, and then we can determine when or wherever you want to start spending money or take action. There is very low risk in it because if there's no website, there's no July 1 moving deadline at all. So from the state, from personal people, anybody, that's the lowest risk you're going to have. Quickest path to legal compliance, lowest immediate costs, buys time for future planning, and part of the pros. Some of the cons could be constituent backlash due to lack of access, convenience and trust issues, and it may appear reactive to the legislation.
So this is just doing away with the website entirely.
Now, that would come with two different caveats on that. Commissioner Overton, you could do away with the website and keep the back end of Civic Engage and say, well, we're gonna, figure out a plan later on. Or you could just say, you don't need the website. It goes away.
And to keep the current website in the background, just turning it off, we have to keep it civic engagement. It's theirs then.
The platform is theirs, yes. We don't know we don't know the content on it. We could pull the content off of it. That would be kind of a process. I think all the content that's on there probably exists already in our like Google Drives and stuff, I assume.
Because they got it from us.
Yeah. We built it out, right? So we did all of the build up of the website internally. And this would be one option if you decided that, no, we want, IT or somebody to build us a new website away from Civic Engage. That is a possibility, like a GoDaddy or.
Your eyes got big.
Trevor wants to do it. Trevor wants to, no, not IT. Trevor said that. You go.
Build it internally.
No.
It's on my to-do list.
You had mentioned that if we were to start fresh with a brand new website, not go through Civic Engage, what would that time period? Because I did not include that in this presentation.
Your bid's probably gonna take at least 3 months. And out of bid, you wait a while. Go through and decide which vendor has the best platform. And then after that 3-month period, you pick somebody, and then they got a 6-month or 4 to 6 month kickoff meetings and planning and
Sorry.
a year.
Kind of experience do you have with doing this? Do you have confidence that this is the one that we're using is the best way to go, or do we,
He's not.
have you done that before, and where are you at on that?
I built websites for a living 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Before HTML5. So I have a lot of experience in building and hosting and maintaining and managing websites. As far as I haven't done any of that lately. Most of my jobs have not had any. But anyways, this Civic Engage platform is one of 3 or 4 that are really focused on government, local government agencies. So they build things into their product that help us out occasionally. And initially we used some of those tools, but we have not since. So we haven't used their facility management tool.
No.
We haven't used their, we use their clerk minutes and agendas things for a minute, and then we decided not to use that. We weren't utilizing it. And my point is, we haven't utilized any of the government specific tools. Our website is just a basic website, which in that sense could be hosted on like when you see my ads for like Squarespace or Wix or.
You're getting to my point. That's a lot of stuff that we don't use. Are we paying for it? And we get the same thing with somebody else that's as good without all of the expense.
In my opinion, yes. You could get a simpler platform, because I don't think our website doesn't utilize any of their specialized government tools. We're just a website, so we could use any platform.
So-
And we don't think that
No, you're fine. Go
we
ahead.
don't think that we would ever need those tools. We don't want to go back to that.
It's not that, but each of those tools costs money. They are additional add-ons to so much of it, like the city clerk was an additional, I think, 15 to 20,000. It was fairly significant. That includes the agenda builder, the minutes. There was a module, so basically Sean didn't have to. She could execute that online through Civic Engage. There was a couple other modules that we just said, we're not using it. So we didn't move further. We thought we could save those funds.
So we met with Madison AI, and I guess that's where I kind of see that internal piece moving towards, if that was a direction that we were going. Is that, would you say, a safe way to move internally to allow us to have those builds and not be paying this other website.
What is Madison AI?
So Medicine AI is an internal chat GPT. It's constructed within the walls
Yep.
of Rio Blanco. And the theory would be that they would take all the clerk's resolutions, the clerk's minutes, the clerk's, all that data, whatever data we wanted it to do. And they would make this vault that would contain all the Rio Blanco information. So it, unlike storing it here on the website, which we used to do, but then when this whole thing started, we removed all those things off. And really, the minutes that we had out there and the agendas that we had out there was really more the past 2 to 3 years. It's never been unlimited. So, but that Madison AI component would then take, your agendas, your minutes and things like that. That would move it internally so that if one of you had a question on how you voted or what was the CSBG funding, you could search for that internally. So it's not accessible to the public like the website.
So-
So 2 different
So
things.
this
Well, no.
AI is supposed to be the
Not really.
greatest thing in the world, so let's do the Madison AI and just tell it to build us a website that's ADA compliant.
There you go.
I like that.
Yeah, that John had some clients in court that have used AI.
They
And how
were
does that
not,
work?
they were not my clients. They were
Oh, they would have clients.
And on the other side, I got a brief in, right now, and it was, well, it was for a pro se person, it looked pretty professional, right? I went through, started breaking down the cases. The cases didn't exist.
Right. I've heard that.
So I get just so clarification, because my understanding is that AI thing is very different than our website stuff, but am I inaccurate?
I get.
Do they work together?
So this is why I'm asking the question.
Okay,
Because we have our internal facing and we have our external facing. So for example, when I worked for Garfield County, I could go to their website and I could see whatever I need to see as a lay person. But then as an employee, I could log in and then there were other things available to me that wasn't available out in the public. So my question would be, with 1110,
Partially. I think there's still gonna be other pieces that need to be built. What's on top of the side.
And I don't know that we've not asked for their VPAT, which is that certification that they are, to what level are they accessible? So we don't know what VPAT they're following. My guess is they're not a Colorado company, so they're probably not to the standard of the 2.2, which that's what we're held accountable to as of July 1 for both internal and external.
just to kind of set the stage here, how many pages did you tell me are on our website?
Ooh, I believe we have about, I think 2,000, if you follow all the links.
I couldn't remember how many you told me, so
That's
about,
current. That's not.
That's correct. That's scaled down.
that's, so that's Dan.
Right, that is way down. We had Trevor is that fairly close. I mean, it's still massive.
Yeah, and that probably includes all the links to all the documents.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, actual pages, I think we're probably closer. I'm only kidding.
100 actual web pages, not just the including link, not including it.
Yes.
And
I don't know that number, but I'd have.
Say like the sheriff's department, road and bridge, sales and use tax, they all have a lot of pages. So like you'll go into one page and then that page breaks it down into like 5 or 6 more pages and it just keeps treeing out like that. So there are a lot of pages.
And links, and that's the other, I'm including that as part of, if you click on this link, then it takes you somewhere else, either internal or external.
So with that in mind, if we take this website down, how's that going to affect the operation of the county?
Internally?
Well, you're talking use tax. There apparently a lot of people are coming into that stuff from the outside, so that's kind of what I'm referring to. Is it, and I know that, the building department uses a lot of that. Leaf uses a lot. How much is that going to affect the operation of the county?
I did send out a survey, some time ago, actually, and most of the departments find it convenient to have a website where someone can go for forms. However, the number of hits that we get still isn't significant, compared to like the building department, the police department. They've often stated, take it down, we'll send them a link, someone can contact, as long as there's a way for someone to contact me, we can get them the document, we can get them the application, the permit, whatever. But you're right, that's part of that convenience, is to be able to look on the website and click on a link to fill in the form that goes directly to the department. Sales and use tax, I don't think had very many hits at all, even though there's a lot of forms there. Deb had agreed to take down most of those. I have not had the time. I don't think Chrissy's had the time to get in there and actually manipulate and remove those extra web pages. So
I've been trying to get some, but honestly, I have not had the time to do nearly as much as I need to get it even close to where it needs to be. And I've been working a lot on the website. And 2 weeks ago, I found like 5 more pages that I didn't know it even existed by following one link to another. And so there's a lot out there that isn't easy to find. So knowing to take it down is going to be very difficult if you don't know that it's there.
Well, that brings me to my next question is it going to be easier to just dump it, start over and then build what we need on there than it is to try and find all of the stuff and go through everything? I mean,
I have an opinion.
Sure, opinion, but
that's why you're here.
Yeah, I think you're gonna get a cleaner site, especially if you stay upfront. Please only put things on please only add content to the website that needs to be there by either statute or by some sort of justifiable reason. So we're not just putting a bunch of random junk. So it needs to be updated constantly.
You said statute. Do we have to have a website by
I don't,
statute?
no, I don't know if we do or not. I don't know. All I know is that, for example, during elections, if, I know Sean has to post election results.
Yes.
I don't know if that has to be on our website or on some election state website. I'm not sure which. And then I know, like, for example, we have to post our annual budget, but I don't know if that has to be on the website or if that has to just be available for. See, I don't know. I haven't read those statutes.
So I know on the ballots that we do with the website, I did load the sample ballots to the clerk and recorder's page on our specific website. I don't know if it's that required by statute or if that's just what we have done because we have a website at that for that.
Legally, do we have to have a website?
I don't believe so. I don't believe there's any requirement that the county have a website.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating we
No,
don't in the
understand.
end, but I am just thinking. And so, I mean, Vicky's got a whole list of, what is there, 7 options for us? And so we might run through all of those and then come back and talk about what pieces and parts of which ones.
Well, and the varying degrees of what you provide in the websites. And, you know, one of the things that I've always pointed out is we have no legal obligation to live stream or to have
Right.
YouTube video, you know. And those are 2 options that deal with ADA compliance. You know, the live streaming is one deal where somebody could, you know, bring up the meeting on their computer at home and sit and see what we're doing. The other is the ability to go in and rewatch it. And we've all done that. We've all used that, but it's not a required deal. The only requirement that we have is once we start recording it through the clerk's office records all of our meetings. The only time we can stop it if there's a technological failure And we can only stop it for the limited period of time till we get there.
And that's the meeting, not necessarily work session.
And that's the meeting. Work sessions aren't required to be recorded, live streamed or YouTube.
And that's what I say, and that's her handheld recorder that
Yeah, that's
she
the handheld.
uses, that is the requirement.
So that's the only requirement. And then we're required to have our minutes that you guys approve each month. And those are actually the official
Right.
record of the proceeding.
Right.
So, but yeah, our requirements are pretty minimal compared to what we do.
And I guess, and I'll save this for a little bit, but that just goes back to what is transparency and what is convenience. And I think we'll probably talk about that a lot today.
Certainly, and I think that you're 100% right there, that convenience, we do a lot of things for the convenience of of internal and external both.
And we would like to continue that,
as
but
much
thanks to our legislators
as
is
hard
why we
as it
are
is.
having trouble doing that.
That, and if you look at other websites, throughout the state, everybody's trimming down. I mean, there's very few websites that I've gone on that I used to go on that are the same way as they were a year ago or 2 years. Almost everybody's trimmed down, and they either minimized to where they have very little compared to what they used to have, or some of them have really got it with just basic information. You go in there, you can find the next meeting, you can find the contact numbers for the various offices in there, who to call for Cora.
Yep.
That's basically
And
it.
that's the end of it. Okay.
So for the HR, because we receive a fairly good number of hits. Of course, with our job postings and stuff. The one problem that I have had is there are certain postings that you are supposed to post if you can. They're federal, but they don't meet the Colorado standards. So I can't meet the ADA accessibility with those requirements.
We just post a link to the federal website.
Okay. Well, there was a problem with, I think, the E-Verify that we tried, remember? And then they would not let me download the requirements to put them through the processor. You can't change their postings at all.
Help me understand, make sure I'm following you. So certain job descriptions have a
Job
federal.
postings, like, and then if we participate in E-Verify, which we do,
Okay, so E-Verify is just making sure that they're
that they're
citizens.
eligible to work within the United States.
Okay,
And they require specific posting notices. So if we post on a website, they want those notices
Oh,
posted
okay.
on that website, which tells people we participate in E-Verify and that they have a right to work.
Hmm.
But I can't go in and change any of those documents because they've got them proprietary. So we've actually pulled them right at the moment.
Yeah.
We have to post federal documents that aren't ADA
It's
state required.
but federal
Yeah.
documents are not. So,
If I might move on to a couple of the other options,
Yeah.
and then we can come back and circle back to them all. Probably it might clarify some. So option 2 is a proposal to minimize and then rebuild using the current system. So basically same scenario and then number 1, except we just removed the current website. And then a couple different caveats to this. Then we could immediately start building out a bare bones website by removing content that's already on there, which is kind of what we've been doing. We've been trying to scale back. However, this would be take it down, then immediately try, or within a month, try to put up a bare bones type, name, addresses, phone numbers, critical links or critical information out there. This implementation would take the current URL down offline on June 30th or thereabouts, for the goal to have a bare essentials available in July. But it's contingent upon us hiring a communication specialist that would have the time to focus solely on this, as well as maybe one or two other duties, letter writing or something like that, to be a communication specialist, putting together, documents with commissioners, letters, that kind of thing. But the primary focus would be for this person to just grab onto the website and start to build that out. And then with some specific timeframes that says, okay, the first month we want to have names and phone numbers out on the website. Then, build in 3, 6, 9, 12 months by July of 2026. Could we have a fully functioning website? Probably won't look like our existing website. But it would be, again, like to Trevor's point, the only time that something would go on that website would be through this person, and it would be verified that it is, as good as we can get it, ADA accessible. And probably, one of the things you'll learn while going to all these seminars is there is no perfect website.
Mm-hmm.
There is no, and we could do all this if we stay with Civic Engage. We already know that part of their platform is not ADA compliant. They don't guarantee that. They are going under the same stipulations as we are, is that they are making progress towards being ADA compliant. But again, that's kind of, we can do everything right and still not be good enough.
In fact, the only perfect website for ADA compliance is no website,
Mhm. Yeah.
which takes access away from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
For this particular option 2, again, if we were able to hire someone, which we have a job description crafted, I believe the commissioners have seen that. We're just waiting for, I think, final review that you're good with that. If you want to proceed, we could get that position posted, and try and get that person located. Again, the legal risk would be low if we were, because again, you don't have a website until you feel more confident that we've got the correct information out there. So it does decrease that risk. Your costs, it could be anywhere from 55 to 85,000, depending on what that looks like, for an in-house person. That person would be a specialist, so that all website maintenance would go through this person. Right now, some departments do have access to be able to put stuff out. They're very cognizant about that. Some we've taken away access to. So in hopes that eventually we were going to get them able to put up their own information, because with limited staff, we don't have the time to build out the other websites. The other thing that position would possibly do would be to write copy and newspaper articles, but would not speak for the commissioners. That would be truly back office, more in that respect. So a little unlike the previous public information officers we had in the past that would go out and be speaking on behalf of the county. Pros, this allows for a fresh, compliant website, structured rebuild with accessibility focus. Some of the cons is, again, loss of access during the rebuild. There's a moderate to high resource requirement, because you are going to need somebody to do this. And then, of course, there's staff time. Other staff time is going to be diverted. There would be a ramp up training time period for us to train someone else in that respect. But
I guess the only thing I would just like to clarify, I'm not convinced it's loss of access to the website,
to the website.
but it's not loss of access to the information, because they can call and they can get it. So again, it's a lack of convenience, not a lack of access.
In
And I
every-
think we need to be
in
very
every
careful.
Instance, we'll have that ability.
Yeah.
To send out documents.
Yes.
Yeah, that does not go away.
Yep.
The clerk and recorder's records going back to, 1898 or 1895, I think when we actually go. I mean, they've got those records.
So I just think that we need to replace the term access in all of this with convenience, because it really is a lack of convenience. We're not going to not have people access. They've got access to it. Words matter.
Especially in this context.
Yes.
Okay, so moving on to option 3. This would be taking in okay, let's just say we've spent all that we're gonna spend, and we're just gonna kind of roll with it. Just leave the existing website out. We're just gonna keep it live, and as really, I think the primary concerns is Chrissy and I that have been doing the most maintenance. I can't speak for that. I believe that. Laura's done some. I think the majority of, so in that respect, not making progress on it, just saying we're gonna try and meet those, do the quarterly updates, do one or two things on it, and continue to go down that road of keeping everything that's currently out there, or fixing it as we come along it. It does keep the site live. We'll continue to try and remove as much inaccessible documents or content as feasible on limited staff. We could possibly halt the video or live streaming. We could leave it up either way. I mean, it's a very open option. If we were to go down this road, you're still looking at 3 to 6 months of a minimum of us remediating the highest risk documents, videos, content. There is no end time period on it because again, with limited resources, that's going to stretch that time period out way longer. The legal risk wouldn't be considered high because again, we know that there's a lot of stuff there. So is that something we want to consider? That would certainly be fine. We're just going to take minimal ADA steps. So it still is very incomplete and unclear of when we would have that ability to say within 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, where are we going to meet that burden that we say? The burden is that we need to be continually making progress towards accessibility on a website. Estimated cost, moderate cost based on existing staff. Again, this is not the option of hiring someone else to come in and do this. This is just relying on the existing staff, going along the way it's been currently. We possibly train the outside staff to be continuing to make so it's not one and done kind of thing.
Well, and it's just ongoing. I was just looking here at the page and we still have tie gates on a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
And there's just no way you can find all of those pages down the way. I mean,
You're absolutely correct. And it's very difficult when I noticed, at least with me, when I've gotten in, if I'm not totally focused on it, then I've lost my train of thought. And it's like, okay, I've got to start back over because I don't know how to page. And then you got to back up. And then it's like, okay, now I click, where did I get it? Okay, it was here. And it's not, so anyways, it is, it could still be very confusing to the public during partial updates. Again, I just don't see how option 3 will be a good option, but certainly we can take a look at it. So moving on. Looking at a possible option 4. Designation officer, but maybe 2 salaries to focus on this. Keep everything out there the way it stands. It does not take the existing website down. It just is going to say, okay, we can, instead of hiring just a information officer, maybe we hire 2 tech people that would truly be tech, I don't want to say tech, but website type folks to focus on.
Communications and accessibility.
Yes. Again, without taking the website down, they would have plenty of work to do and bring everything else up to speed. It could be a limited time contract, but it's not an ongoing position. It would just be to get us to the point where we feel like we're making continued progress towards accessibility.
so these would be temporary staff is what I heard you say.
Could be temporary, could be permanent. That's one of those flexible options.
I think you're probably gonna have one permit. I could.
They're still gonna have to have some of that ADA accessible technology that we use currently, like continual engine to remediate PDFs. There's just not a way around that. If you're going on a website, you're gonna have to remediate the PDFs. There's,
And I think there again, I agree with that entirely. I think there may be cheaper options out there. Maybe not.
last year, but they were the cheapest, and the other ones that there were that were kind of close to in price. They were still more expensive, but they were a lot more difficult to use as a user. Well, and that was one of the things we looked at was the free option from, what is it?
Oh, yeah.
OIT. The options that they provided. In fact, I had a conversation with Common Look, Alliant Common Look, and everyone that I've talked with, and when I previewed it was very difficult to use, very time consuming, very difficult. And that was the, kind of thing is like the people that have had the success with it have dedicated staff for it.
Well, and I get that. And I'm not saying it's not the cheapest. I just think these are the kinds of things
Yep.
that we review.
Absolutely. Okay. So option 5. Let's spend some big money. Well, not quite the biggest money. Full in-house compliance team. So again, the prior one is maybe one person with some temporary help to get us going. This one would be full in-house compliance team that would take over those job duties completely away from myself, from the ADA team, basically. Someone to handle that whole piece of it. You're talking some big salaries. It would probably take 4 to 6 months to recruit and train an internal team. Legal risk would be medium medium risk due to time to have staff in place and actually be getting the website going. So in this option, you could leave the website intact the way it is right now as you hire these 2+ additional staff to focus on it. Again, going to be more of an expensive option. It is a strong long-term solution though. So, I mean, if you didn't have that kind of staff that would focus both internally and externally, it might be worth it. It is going to have a little bit longer ramp up time and maybe complex to manage. I don't know. Option 6 is outsourcing part of this. It's a short-term contract. I'm not looking for, this is not permanent, but this is putting out an RFP that says we need somebody to come in, work on Civic Engage, and get our website to a good order, to a place where we feel confident that it is accessible. Probably it's going to take about 3 to 5 months to get an RFP put out on the street, have someone answer it, then they're going to have to either get trained on Civic Engage or, if they already know that, we can build that into the package. Again, the estimated cost when I looked at short-term solutions, total package again for a year's worth, it could be from 200,000 to 300,000. That may be high. I don't know if you can find somebody to do it local. Again, but that would not necessarily, that would not take away our risk. All that does is say, we're not going to pay this person in-house and pay benefits. It would be an external position, a contract position to do X number of jobs. This is the website, fix it, go for it.
So Vicky, while you think that might be high, Dr. Fred Jarman from Garfield, their bids were 700,000 to $1 million when they went out for.
Oh, wow.
So I thought it was high. Thank you, Callie, for that. So, hey, you've got some LATCF funds there. You want to just throw it at the window?
Yeah, that, I mean, and there's, of course, I mean, they're a bigger county. They have a lot more money, but they chose not to go that route.
Wow. Thank you for that. Like, wow. So anywho,
And that doesn't take any of our liability away.
no, it does not
Which
take
is
any
scary.
liability.
Well, but I mean, somebody that does that is probably, I mean, you would have to vet them, but you could pretty much. Yeah,
You're-
but it's gonna be pretty good shape.
Right, you're feeling more secure because they know what they're doing. And I think that's one of our biggest issues is that at least, getting in there and fixing something, it takes quite a bit of time. And then I'm not quite sure that I've actually got it all.
No, I totally understand that.
Okay. So
Why we need to make changes.
we're on to option 7. Now, option 7, and so I'm guessing I'm very low on this one. Because this would be outsourcing the entire website, leaves Rio Blanco County altogether. We hire some outside agency to do the hosting, to do everything, to do content. We send them information. They put it out with the caveat that they accept liability. So if Garfield County's was based on liability or no liability, that's going to make it cheaper if you said, "Now we'll keep the liability in-house and just hopefully you'll do a good job for us." This would be looking at, can we transfer that risk and how much risk can we transfer? Based on what Commissioner Scritchfield just said, I guess that's low.
Well, and I don't know exactly where he was at with this, but he just said when they went out for bid to put it out there, that's the kind of bid they got back. So I don't know. It could be one or the other or a
Or a
combination.
combination of two.
So anyway, it's bottom line is it's over our budget.
And the risk transfer too is if they identify us, oh, we still have the risk. We don't have a ability to get rid of it. So we're just saying, okay, if we do get sued, you're responsible to come and defend us. You're responsible for paying any judgments, fines, whatever. So that's, it's only as good as the people you're negotiating with or.
And sometimes you sign, I've had that in the legal world where you've got an indemnity clause, they're taking, whatever, and then they file bankruptcy and they're out. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was our last option. But now looking at some more information, comparative cost analysis. I think if you look at fully outsourcing, of course, by far is going to be way more expensive. Outsourcing is going to be using a short term contract, client personnel. And that's their job. You are going to have salaries and benefits. But then you might have a little more control over the options and what it looks like. The internal remediation and minimal compliance, those two options are not necessarily too expensive because again, you're just doing things and spending money as things come up, as tools that you need tools to do. So it's not necessarily as expensive. Again, this is just looking at base costs. Your proposed minimize and rebuild is going to be a little bit more expensive because you're saying we are going to take, the website off, but then we're going to put resources to building it out correctly. Nothing is for free in this. You're going to have to make a decision to say how much, when, and how much can we afford to spend. So some options, while they look nice because they're free, temporary suspension going on for indefinitely or turning off the website is your cheapest option. There's no other way. We could shut down the website. We'd save the $15,000 for Civic Engage. We'd save the continual engine. We'd save converged accessibility. We would save all these different things. So that would be the cheapest option. Timelines. To fully outsource with risk transfer, I had figured it's gonna take at least 6 to 7 months by the time you get a RFP out there. I think we can cross it off because we couldn't afford it anyways. Probably can't afford option 6 either. That's the short-term contract to get us up and running. Now the next three, so, again, temporary suspension, we can do that immediately. Proposed rebuild, we could take the website down. I'm starting from the bottom going up. The proposed minimize and rebuild, again, we take the website down. We get staff hired, hopefully, one person that could begin the basis of saying, okay, this is the first step that I'm gonna have this piece up and running within a month to 2 months. That's probably doable. Minimal compliance, that's kind of an internal remediation only. Minimal compliance, it's definitely going to take, if we said, okay, we're just going to do things as we go along here. Probably in 4 to 6 months, we're going to be able to show that we've continued to make progress. And that's also in line with the internal remediation. I know those two are very close and very similar. But that's kind of, it just takes time to learn the system. It takes time to get in there and then follow all those dang links.
And I think, Vicky, looking at this, I guess the only question I would have is on the proposed minimize and rebuild. If you're saying a month to get started is one thing, but it's going to take that person, I'm going to say a year to get everything back where they should be. So I just wasn't sure. It seemed like some of this might be, I don't know if this is meaning when they would start or when they would be up and
What I was thinking on that particular one, you're right. It's how soon could we get the bare bones up? And then as something comes online, yes, you're right. It could take 6 months to a year.
Yeah, I'm going to estimate a year.
With goals that say this person needs to be at this percent, this percent, you know, as it goes along. So I was thinking more the immediate look of how could we get a website back out there. So kind of put together a decision matrix. These are not just all the thoughts, but these were mine, so I'll throw them out there. Option 1, quick and cheap. It cuts off public access to the website. Convenience. It cuts a public convenience. Yes. Option 2 is a balanced rebuild with a new FTE and is ADA aligned. I think we could justify that certainly through the way that the House bill is designed. It would show progress that we are making progress towards that. Option 3 keeps the site live, but it's high risk because again, it's kind of the wait and see option and how that's gonna, well, we're just gonna do minimal compliance. Option 4 is an internal fix. It's slow, but resource heavy because we're gonna need people to do that. The full in-house team would be not only just one person doing it, we're talking 2, maybe 2.5. It's expensive, but sustainable. I mean, for the convenience side, I don't want to say sustainable because of budget, that can be different. Option 6 could be very fast and quick if we found someone that would take it over, do it for us, and then option 7, full outsource, most secure, but very, very costly. And that cost would not necessarily go away. If we paid someone to web host it, they would keep it to such point that you say, no, we're not going to do that anymore. And then you would have those costs again if you decided to do something else. Accessibility coordinator. Again, that would rebuild a compliant website basically from the ground up, continuing with Civic Engage. Does minimize the legal exposure somewhat. Has dedicated FTE to oversee accessibility standards, content audits, and ongoing improvements. It is lower cost than in-house teams or outsourced vendors. It's flexible and scalable. So you could do what and when, whatever you want. I mean, so you could, again, if you decided to do option 2, take down the website immediately, but then bring basic information up in periods. More facility and risk mitigation of the strongest middle path, balancing investments and staffing and public convenience. And this kind of goes back to addressing Commissioner Scritchfield's point about an implementation timeline. If you choose to go with this option, I could see April to May, we can get someone hired by June 30th. Take the current site offline so that this person can start to get that information put together by July 1st. Or July 1st to July 30th, launch a basic site with basic information on it. Upon hiring an FTE, if we can find the person, and find that magic unicorn. And then July through December, that build process would be in progress, with maybe January 26th as a final site ready and fully live, but that could be July of 2026. It's kind of an unknown. It'll be able to move and remediate and.
So the progress, as long as we're making progress, what's the end date of that? Is that July 26th? Is there no end date?
Don, I'll defer to you.
Right now, that's the standard is that as long as we are making progress, we've got some,
So it isn't by July of 28, you have to show progress and then we're going live.
by the making progress. If you, when it's basically what a judge says, really. So we're sued that we are not compliant. So we say, but we've been making progress. And the judge is going to look at what we did. And the judge is going to make a decision based on the evidence presented to whether or not that judge thinks that we've made suitable progress to. Yeah. So that's what it is. That's why the answer's hard, because it's going to be subjective. There's not a guideline that says, okay, if you did it, ABC, okay, here's progress. It's going to be, it's like any court thing. The judge is going to say, okay, this is the evidence. And I think you've made suitable progress. And then part of it's going to be, if somebody comes in and nitpicks at something that's pretty minor, that it's obvious that they looked at the website and they just scoured it to try to find something to pick us on, is either they're mad or they're trying to make money or whatever. And then that's going to be different than if it's something that we've got all of these complaints of the same thing that hadn't been.
I always think back to the fact that, like on a, the first, is it the first time that you say you're making progress and you're good, that you've made progress? Is it the 10th time? Well, yeah, you still made progress, but did you make enough progress? By the 100th time, have you made enough progress? Because each one of those kind of has their own matrix. Well, you did make progress up to here, but how long does that cover you? You're right, the judges.
Well, if we, the first one, obviously we've made some progress.
Absolutely, we've
The
made
10th one, we made at that point decide to shut it down because we're not.
Yeah,
the judge was
the
not.
progress is so extensive that we can't get there.
And I guess that's where, there's counties are all over the board on this, as is the state, just for the record.
Oh,
The
yeah,
state's not
absolutely.
going to be compliant. So let's let the state be the guinea pig. And so I think we just pick our path of what we think is right, is doable for us and our budget. Because there's counties all over like I say, I talked to Garfield County. They've got a lot bigger budget than we do. They've got an in-house person that's been doing it for 2 years, and they said they might be 80% complete right now. So, they're cramming too.
That's what's taking a lot of stuff off.
And they have, that's what he said. The terms that he used was scrubbing and purging
Yeah.
a lot, just like we have. And so they're still doing that. And then they're using a program called Monstito, maybe?
Oh, yeah, on Cydia.
That one time, that full-time person is being able to use and help them and so forth. And it sounds like it's much less expensive, but again, that's a person dedicated to it. So, and then, like they said, there's going to be counties like Crowley. They are going to be, maybe a face page, that just because they don't have the budget. And I think of Dolores. They can't afford to pay their commissioners. I mean, the meeting I was at last year, they were trying to figure out a way to not, how can they get around? Because they can't pay their commissioners. So they cannot pay this. So we just have to choose and balance what we believe is right. We will always be transparent, but we will provide as much convenience as we can. If it's not as convenient as people would like, I'm going to encourage them to contact their state legislator, because that's where this lies. It is not with any single county anywhere. And so, I mean, in my opinion, my goals are to maintain transparency all the time, comply with state and federal laws, which, by the way, the county's primary responsibilities is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of citizens. And this does not have to do with health, safety, and welfare. So when we're having to balance our budget, those are the things we have to balance, or that's what we have to do first. And then we'll balance the fiscal responsibility and the convenience factors. That's where we have to do this. And Vicki, I'm with you. I think number 2, and maybe tweaks one way or the other on it, but generally, I think your option 2 is the starting.
Well, I don't, I think there's too much urgency here. We've already made progress. We don't need to do this tomorrow.
No.
And why does Rio Blanco County feel like we have to be out in front of this? We don't. There's other counties that we can watch or follow around and see what's going on. Because I think that in a court, we've already made progress.
Absolutely.
If we come up to 2 or 3 or 10 deals where we're in trouble or whatever, and we get by with it, then we can start getting excited. But I don't know that I'm all hung up on the urgency right now. And I just to finish up with that, I think we just there's 2 options. We either take it back to a face page and a couple of pages after that to give department information where you go. And to start with, on the first page, I want to make a statement that says, if you don't like this, what you're seeing, and you don't see enough information, here's who you call to complain about it. Don't, just tell them right on the first page. They're not happy. This isn't our problem. We're being made to do this. But anyway, just bring it down to the first couple of pages with that just has where they call to, who the commissioners are, their phone numbers, their whatever, and the departments and their phone numbers and email addresses, and leave it at that until you build up from behind and get another, just leave that up and build another one up. And when you get it going where you're at, but this person that you're talking about hiring now, is that the person that we've just reviewed the job description on? It would be the
Communications specialist is what
Yeah,
I would,
that's the
of
one.
some kind we would call that.
Coordinators with.
Okay, yes.
This morning.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so
but-
this would be a part of their job, but this is
Right.
not their entire
That's-
job.
That's exactly what I'm getting at. I can see that being a part of that, but I see a lot of other uses for this person. I don't. And another thing, YouTube. There are counties out there that are going to use YouTube's closed captioning. Now, if YouTube has made a mistake in closed captioning, is that our liability?
So I guess, and I get that,
That's the problem, is that we can use different things. I mean, we can use Civic Plus, and we can use that, but the liability always falls back to the county, the government entity.
and Don, I mean, I get that in
Yeah.
court of, in a lawyer's perspective. But I also had some folks help me understand, you can be sitting right here and not understand every word that's
Oh,
said.
absolutely.
And so I would argue that from now on, and I would pay you to argue it. If it goes to court.
So, well, and that is the case, and the thing is, that this is such a special interest bill that it was written, you know, without regard to the majority of the citizens of the state of Colorado. It's written to benefit a very select few, and I'm not making judgment call one way or the other, whether or not that's appropriate, right, or anything else. But the, you know, heck, you and I can be talking, using the same language from the same areas to the same dialect and still misunderstand each other.
As frequently we do.
You know, that's just the nature of communication.
So this cost on option number 2 is the cost for this person that we're looking at this job description on.
That's salary only, right?
It does not include the benefits, just the
Yes, just the
salary.
salary.
Does that job description include compliance officer?
Good point. I don't think it does.
You just,
Accessibility,
we-
compliance,
88 coordinator, technology coordinators
yeah.
under the
In
statute.
other words, are they gonna be able to have, what I'm worried about is if you hire somebody who doesn't have the power to do their job, so if a certain department wants to put something on the internet that's not it's accessible, is this person gonna have the power to say, that's not compliant? I'm the compliance officer.
In my
With
opinion,
your
yes.
vested ownership.
I didn't know if that was in the job description, I haven't read it.
And that was actually a question that I had was, to me, in my opinion, that I am not in favor of staff manning their own website. Everything for policy, and it needs to be in policy, would need to go through this communication
Somebody who has the
specialist.
right now.
Yeah.
Yes, with remediation or no, or whatever.
Couple of questions. How long does our contract with Civic Engage?
It's annual and it starts in
Okay.
June, I believe.
Okay. And then, if we were to look at a new website, what is that average cost going to be if we moved away from Civic?
I haven't looked in a long, but I would imagine that your basic services that I'm gonna keep using Squarespace because that's the ads I see all the time. I imagine that's, probably in the realm of like thousand. I'm guessing, I don't actually.
You don't know, okay. And then,
I don't know.
to answer, and I don't remember which one of you guys asked, to be in compliance with the rules that are met, so that if something was to come up where we're being challenged, right here it says, one of the things to show, provide evidence of making good faith progress is to have policies on regular testing and remediation. It needs to be that simple. Policy on how are we regularly going to test and what does that remediation? And this is a memo directly from the grace period non-compliance that was done last year to bring us to the July 1st, 2025 date. So one, we need to be getting the policy. I don't know where that policy is at. You do have it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So can you share that with us?
Yeah,
please?
because I haven't seen it.
Does it include that part? Oh,
Mhm.
okay, I thought it did, but I could.
Okay. So I guess to keep us on the right track so that in a good faith effort, if we are something is presented to the county, then that gives you that leg to stand on. So that needs to definitely be done before July 1st, 2025 to keep us in compliance in that regard. I would like to know how much if it was a new system, like I want to know what that average cost might be. If it's lower than this Civic Engage, are we truly getting what we need out of Civic Engage? Because I'm not hearing that. And I'm struggling with that.
Trying to pull up Squarespace just to get a general idea of how
Thank
much
you.
their site.
Thank
Bill
you.
mentioned that your cost there, your at least recommended is the quarterly testing of the website. That's going to run about 10 to 15,000 for a professional company to test that.
You all are.
No, it would probably be for best, from what I'm understanding, where they do a full website crawl basically. And the way that that's done is that they start and then they start going through it page by page, and they have someone from the disabled community also there going through that process. So there's some automation that can happen, but you still have to have someone that, can use a screen reader, help you to understand, well, no, this didn't work for my particular disability. Now you're never going to solve for every disability out there, but just keep in mind that is one piece of that. And then I think, what was the other piece of that? So we've had our policy since, oh gosh, that's going back from 2020. I mean, when we first met with Converge Accessibility, we drafted the policy, the accessibility of how we were going to try and achieve these things. The document remediation doesn't have to be continual engine, but you're going to have to still have some way to convert these documents that were scanned PDFs to a readable document.
Sorry, interrupted you. So if we start from scratch and this person has the knowledge and the ability and everything has to come through them to go on that website, why do we need to have somebody keep checking it? Nobody else is going to be able to put anything on there. So I don't think we need to have somebody pay that kind of money to go do that. If they're doing their job, then we're not doing that.
I would make sure they're on the edge of compliance. So in other words, right now, 2.2 is the requirement from the state. They're going to 2.3 soon. I would make our FTE work on 2.3.
Yeah.
So that it lasts longer.
There you go.
But that's one thing that could change is just the rules.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then have to stay on top of that.
So that's
Yeah.
one reason we scan. We may not need to scan quarterly. Rules do choose.
Okay. I see what you mean.
That's a
So,
good point.
okay. So, but if they're being able to make this stuff compliant, and we don't make this page that's 1,000 pages, or our website 1,000 pages, we keep it at a reasonable amount, and they've got a good understanding and handle on it. I would hope that they are going to be able to manage that. Now, may or may not, I may be out here in La La Land, but that would be my hope, is that this person is going to have a lot of those abilities. There's no way we can expect you guys to have those abilities. And don't get me wrong, I am not saying you guys haven't done a good job. You've done everything you can and trying to maintain your other stuff. It's just that we've got too much going on and everything's having challenges.
Like those companies that you pay to do the scanning, they use tools.
Yeah.
There are free tools out there, but again, it comes out to time.
And then what do you find when you find something that's not accessible?
Yes, now what do you do?
Okay, man, I was just 2 pages into
Someone
it.
who's dedicated would have time.
Right. So that's what my hope is. And the other thing is, and Fred has offered up their staff to meet with us and help us and so forth. And that's, we just start, if we got somebody that's dedicated to that, they can develop their little support system, like you develop your little support system.
So Fred said we could hire his staff.
Well, I thought I heard him say that. My guess is Garfield County is paying a lot more than we do, is what I'm guessing. No,
A minute ago, you said that we're never gonna get this accessible to everybody. Who decides that? And isn't that what the law says that we have to do?
That is what the law says, but you'll talk to anybody that's in technology and they all say, No
So
website's perfect.
Who decides that?
The judge. The judge that you just happened to draw to review the case
And eventually the appeals courts.
and appeals courts.
And,
So,
you know, and that's one thing too, that we need to keep in mind, that this hasn't been fleshed out. When it goes live on July 1st, we want to be in a good position. I mean, there's no question that we need to work towards being in a good position. We're going to see when that happens, how many people are going to be out there trying to use it as a plug against anonymity. How many people are going to try to use it as, like Matt Roche has done on the open meetings law and things like that. And once that starts fleshing out a little bit, then it kind of gives you an idea, okay, really, what is your real life risk versus these theoretical risks that we've seen for, you know, other things that have happened or in similar type laws. So with the places, and I kind of like what Doug said a little bit about, you know, we start getting where we're getting hit, and maybe that's when we say, okay, if we need to shut down the website, we shut down the website. We don't have a website or a one-page website.
Minimize them.
Yeah.
Just one other really quick point I want to make that as I was looking back at House Bill 211110, it says this technology includes but is not limited to websites, applications, kiosks, digital signage, documents, video, audio, and third-party tools. So even our kiosk out here that has multiple applications as well as, what do you want to call those? Sorry. We have multiple avenues of getting information. This is telling me that it's not just our website that is putting us at risk.
The reason we brought the website up first is because when we do our risk matrix, it was the highest risk. We do have to work on, and we are already working on it.
Okay.
So we're gonna have to take, all of our signs have got to have Braille on them,
Or
or a speaker that talks to them, or.
Over time.
And that's
We
where,
consider those lower risk because they're physically in the
Here.
county.
Yeah, this one, somebody can set outside the county and just do the
the
website,
state,
or crawl and try to find accessible issues, or issues with accessibility. For the kiosk, they have to walk in the courthouse, go into the kiosk and.
Eventually,
So-
even our applications like in code and all of them are supposed to be.
So those name things that you just ordered for Kelly and I, you need to cancel that and give them in Braille.
and a speaker on it.
That's not technology, but yes. If it were digital, then
Yeah,
yeah.
That did say at paper.
Oh, it's
The applications and documents.
applications means a program, like a computer
So,
program.
but what about
So
documents?
it's all technology.
not just paper.
Does it say digital or?
Digital signage, documents, video, audio,
Digital documents.
third-party tools. What does
Which is
third-party
Canada.
tools mean?
Well, like the YouTube,
Basically all the
captioning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Third
The
party, they're
non-technology
relying
ones.
on YouTube, do the closed captioning, they're not relying on the third party.
Going back to what Trevor said about the risk matrix, which is one of the first things that Converge Accessibility helped us to develop, is where is your biggest liability and what's the kind of averaging that down and saying, okay, if you've got a lot of risk here, this is more important than some other thing that never gets accessed. So that's maybe a low risk. I think that's that whole nationwide versus Rio Blanco County versus, employees versus non-employees versus all the different things that you could possibly have that comes up in this. What was the low hanging fruit? And that was definitely the website. That was the most obvious, the biggest, most strategic. So, which we did on that risk matrix, break that all down. And then even within the website, we have a risk matrix that says, this is our number one thing is the video camera with ADA accessible, because that's what everybody wants to see.
So bringing with that in mind, we're just taking care of, today we're just talking about the website. This person that we're talking about possibly hiring, would they move into all of the rest of this stuff?
That was part of my question about
Mhm.
compliance. They need to be the compliance officer.
And I agree with you.
I think they
Yeah.
need that authority to
Mhm.
say,
So this person is more than the website.
More than the
This
website.
is the compliance.
It's
officer.
communications.
Yeah.
That's how come we call it communication.
I'm catching up.
I agree with Trevor. They gotta have that authority because we could have the most compliant website in the world, but people can start putting things on there
Yeah.
without going through a compliance check.
Yep. if a department head gets through that and gets something on the website.
On the
because
website, then it won't
they
be,
union and they want it done now and it needs done tonight. I can't go.
John, not that,
Yeah, we need to make sure that.
how about elected officials? Where would, I mean, I would assume it's a county website, so it would be under the county's domain, that there would be a line there that says if an elected official, anybody says, I want this on the website, that would still fall under compliance? I mean,
Well,
because it's a county.
yeah, the thing with the liability, elected official acts or inaction or whatever, is it's still a county liability. I mean, fact that it's official separate and apart from the commissioners does not limit the county's requirements.
So they can go out and build their own website that's not compliant and the county's gonna get hit.
Potentially,
And we don't have any way to stop them.
well, we do have the budgetary, you just don't have if you're spending money for things, well, like I always say, every elected official can use their own HR, they can use their own finance, they can use their own payroll. However, if they want to do that, the county commissioners have established those things that benefit the county as a whole. And if they want to do that, then you just pull that amount of money back from them. So, okay, you're not going to use our finance, then we're not going to pay for additional things. You've got the option. And I think that's a legitimate way to control some of that.
So do we need to give you direction today? Is that what we're looking for?
No official action, but yeah, direction to staff of, is there a policy that you want us to, particular path of those that you want us to start pursuing? We do have the position. I guess one of my things is if you decided, no, we're just blowing up the website, we're walking away from it, then we wouldn't necessarily need this ADA coordinator except for the communications, thank you. Person except to do commissioner correspondence and start working from the other technologies that we have to make those accessible. So again, that would just be kind of that concern. Which option you want to go. Commissioner Scritchfield worked a lot on that with me, so I don't know. Do you have any thoughts of next?
Well, I think, one of my concerns, and I get, so we've got 3 things we're paying for right now, besides staff on this website stuff, just because of this. Well, one is the Civic Engage. It is what it is, no matter what we do, as long as we keep them. So unless we decide to change, we will keep them. Continuing engine is 25,000. And I'm just saying this to make sure I've got it in my head. They do PDF remediation of the large documents, or they tell us how to do the remediation of PDFs otherwise, correct?
Well, and it allows that to go in and actually do the remediation. Like I use it all the time for remediating documents.
Okay. And then there's Converge Accessibility is another 20,000. And I have written down, they tell us to do it. I don't know what I meant by that.
Hey, there's something wrong here.
Yeah, I know, I'm going, isn't that what the other one's doing? So help me clarify the difference between those.
Okay, so if you think a continual engine is document only, it's a piece of paper. It's the PDFs, it's only doing this. They're not going to tell you anything other than, is this document accessible?
Okay.
How do you make it accessible? That type of thing. But they're not working with anything else as far as the website, as far as communications or anything else. That's their sole focus is within that document remediation world.
Okay.
Continual Engine is who our partner is that Converge, thank you, Converge Accessibility. They are the ones that helped us direct our plan, build our plan out, have provided us updates. They actually wrote letters regarding the new rule changes that OIT was going to put out about saying, don't do this, this is wrong, you're trying, it's the more you push. I think the way that they worded it was they were trying to do away with some protections that we had going after 2026. I'm trying to think of what that was that Ken.
Oh, there
said.
were several of them.
And I don't know where those are at.
Their accessibility guidance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they're charging us 20,000 a year for this. I'm like going, talk about creating a whole industry. And
Oh, yeah.
so anyway, okay, so they tell us to do it. It basically, so my notes were right.
They tell us how to get away. Yeah, not how to get away with it, but how
How to begin compliant.
how to get compliant. Here's your steps. Develop
They
this
can look
matrix.
at our website and they're doing stuff too, right?
They're
I know that
doing another
they've
website
offered,
review.
they've offered assistance with,
Yeah.
providing a accessibility compliant station in the clerks. Yes. Not that they have, I don't know, were they?
So
And part of that would be for them to basically run the website check to say, here's how, out of, running the entire website with the designated scope that we gave them, you're 80% compliant, you're 50% compliant, you're 30% compliant.
Do we pay them based on hours or do we pay them based on
It's ours, yeah.
hours?
Yeah, but we did
So we
it
could reduce that.
We do not to exceed, right?
Not to exceed, yeah.
Yeah, this person,
So they can spend up to so many hours.
As a matter of fact, there's probably a time, if we hire someone, there's probably a point in the future, but I think.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Cause I'm thinking we gotta get rid of some of this cost. This kind of cost on this
They
website
may
is crazy.
Other kinds of assistance from other vendors, but they probably won't that up.
Well, and so this is one of the time sensitive questions would be if you want them to, because they were getting ready, we'd given them information that we wanted them to do our first real website patrol, if you want to call it that, go through the website. If you decide that that is not what you want to do, we need to notify them that you don't take that action.
We did that 2 or 3 weeks ago, was where we gave them what pages we would, like, we went through and got rid of some of the pages that we told them, oh, no, we're not gotten rid of that one. Don't go worry about it scanning through that. That's been 2 or 3 weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And so they might already be in the process of scanning our website. Yeah.
So my vision here, and this is just in my vision, so we'll see what anybody else is thinking. We don't spend any more money on this website. And it is what it is until June 30th. June 30th, we have either something else, that bare bones page that's available. And at the cheapest way we can do it. And then we get this person on board that gets some time to understand and work with the plan that you've already got put together and make the tweaks to it we need to and get it right. And then we build things out. And if we need those other companies at that point, we will really look hard at that and see what their cheaper options, what's this person's skills and so forth that way. 2 things that does for me is, again, this is just Callie talking. We give people that are concerned about stuff that might go away off the website. We say, you know what, it's going to be there till June 30th. If there's something there that you are wanting to have access to basic through the website, go ahead and download that. Otherwise, it will always be accessible otherwise. And we then build, like, again, I don't need to reiterate that. We build that out because I think just what I was saying, there are so many pages in there. There's just no way that you guys can go find all of those little fingers. I mean, I think of it as, what do they call it? The nerve, the little pictures of the nerves that you see that are going every which way. That's how I think this has happened. And part of it, which is a good thing, is that the department heads have been able to do their own thing, which is easy for them, but a challenge to manage from the upper level. And they probably aren't going to like it that they would have to go through somebody, but if they understand why, I think that will be helpful. I had another thought that was of value, Vicky, but I'm not sure what it was.
We'll need to renew the Civic Engage
Okay.
contract in June if we're gonna.
Okay. So do you know, is it through the end of June or is it?
No, it's mid-June, I think.
Okay. Well, that could be, I mean, if we have to, that's when we could be. So I guess it makes sense to me maybe to look at what the other options are, to do a cheaper version for a little bit that, whether it's a temporary or whether it's a permanent one that has all the tools we do need, but no extras that we need, and see if we can get that a reasonable rate. Maybe between now and then we can make that decision whether we cut them or not. But let me go back to, that's not true. Because what you said was we have to maintain them in order to keep everything that's on the website right now, right?
Yeah,
We probably don't want to lose that.
yeah. And if you did maintain that for one more year, you give that person
More time.
more time. And you maintain convenience for the community throughout that period of time. And we also maintain the ability to prove to the court that we're working towards.
I'm not thinking we keep that facing the public. So help me understand this. So if we needed, so this is Rio Blanco .USA. That's the one we currently have. Can we get another name or something that would start over here and have a new page? So if they searched the regular A, it would automatically direct them to B. Isn't there a way to do that?
Yeah, if we're, I don't think there's anything on the website. If you're gonna take away public access from the website, I don't think there's any reason. We have all those documents.
Okay,
I would just,
okay.
that would make it easier than you just,
Would it? Okay.
yes, you can do what you're saying, but if the public isn't gonna have access to it, there's really no reason. It is that public. We have all those documents.
Okay.
But I think everyone's used to sending things out to people who don't use website.
Exactly. And that's when I talked to, because I talked to Rana this morning and Leaf this morning, and they're like, we get calls and send people stuff anyway, so it's not a big
That's normal.
deal. So I guess, I'm sorry, I'm kind of talking in circles here, but
Now,
what am I missing, Vicky?
one thing with people sending out digital stuff, we do need to make certain that they're asking somebody that calls in and wants a documentation or document of some kind. We do need to make sure that everybody is aware that they need to start asking if they need any accessibility assistance, right? If they're blind and it needs to be 100% accessible for a screen reader. If we're sending out a documentation digitally that is not accessible yet, like it hasn't gone through the Converge accessibility or something, so we don't know how it's remediated.
I think if you go in that direction, if somebody's calling in and they're saying, hey, I'd like to see a document, they need to ask for reason.
Yeah, there's no way that we know.
Yeah, we don't have to anticipate that any document we send out be screen reader through the other,
Us asking makes us prejudiced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But not
You're
wrong.
prying into your face.
Like, us asking makes us single them out.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, so if somebody needs a reasonable accommodation under that, Now, if they're going on the website, the rule is they should be able to access the documents in the same manner that a fully able person can do that. But if they're doing a core request or they're doing some other manner where they're doing that, they need to inform us of, they don't have to tell us what the disability is, but they do need to tell us what reasonable accommodation they need.
I guess, Vicky, think, and you guys chime in whenever you get if you want to, but I'm just thinking, so next steps and what direction you guys need.
I'm in there with you on, the first thing we need to do is put on our website what is happening and what we're doing so that people understand that in the future, this is going to happen. Give them a date so that they know where we're at and who they can call to complain about it. And then I don't know. On that date, do we need to take that website down? We've made progress. And we're gonna keep making progress. So do we need to back off or do we need to just keep making progress?
Well, that'd be my thought is right now, we just need to keep making progress. You know, we worked on it. We can demonstrate that we have done everything that we're required to do as of now. Now, if we're not and we're not feeling comfortable with it somewhere down the line, then we're gonna have to do something different.
Maybe we could build a threshold of if we get X amount of, files a complaint. If we get X amount of complaints in a day or in a week or in a month.
For a dollar.
I'm not talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, if the dollar fee comes in, even if we've made progress though, right?
If we don't have a policy in place, it's not going to be.
If we do.
The policy's been in place,
Our
yeah.
progress, but yeah, if somebody hits and now if it's obvious, if it's low hanging fruit, that it's obvious that we didn't do anything to remediate our website, yeah, we're probably not going to be able to defend it adequately. If it's something that's kind of obscure, and then somebody comes in there and they either are hunting for something or they just have a special need that, and I don't mean special need in ADA, I mean special need in information. And they go into something that's a lot obscure, but the rest of our websites pretty much have been remediated and cured. And I think that's a defensive position. You know, this is something that maybe we get 3 hits a year on.
Whoever get 2 complaints in the next 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's
Well,
depends on
If
what
we
the
get
nature of the
10
complaints are.
complaints day 1 and 30 complaints day 2, and maybe we need to have a point where we kind of just.
Well, and that might be a
Right off
5-year type thing.
Well, yeah,
I'm more concerned about not necessarily that they're giving us an opportunity. You know, I mean, if I truly want information from somebody and so I ask, I mean, we all have been in this thing and I ask for that information and they send me information that's not exactly what I want, then usually I follow up and say, no, that's not really what I need. You do this, this, and this, right? And really all, because I'm truly after the information. I'm not after remediation. I don't want to go through the pain.
they're gonna go look somewhere else.
Yeah, so that's the type of thing that we're hoping most people do. It's those people that are more litigious and they want to make a point and try to beat on us. That those are the guys I want to be able to get.
I guess my concern, Don, is if I thought we only had 50 pages that we could look at and make sure we were in pretty good shape, I'm questioning that.
Well,
With
yeah.
1,000 or more pages out there, I'm not sure that we can expect that we are even the 80% compliant or whatever. I mean, we don't know this. So that's how come I'm suggesting that by the date that we are supposed to be in compliance, then we start with a new fresh one so that we don't have these fingers out here that nobody knows what's there.
I think that's the safest way to go.
That's the safest, but it takes away a lot of stuff. And I don't think that we had the liability is that great enough to do that, because I think we've made enough progress that when we hire this person, and that's going to be a lot of progress is hiring this person.
You should demonstrate that we put
Yeah.
money into the site.
And then this person comes on and looks at the website, and from that, then that person takes it down or starts building another website with the intentions of taking this one down. I just don't think that, I think that we're jumping off of it.
Well, and the way the lawsuit would work, the way I presume it works, this, nobody's been sued under this particular law yet. But if somebody were to sue the county, basically say, we have a compliance issue that we think you're not been compliant, we want $3,500 on the thing. I've come to talk to you guys and say, okay, do we have the $3,500? Do you want me to defend it? And if it's defensible, I think we probably want to defend just for the precedent that we're going to defend our website. I'm kind of like banks I represent that, economically, sometimes it doesn't pay to spend the money on one case, but the banks don't want people to think they're pushover either, so they will spend the money on one case in order to do that. I think that's kind of the position that we need to take. If somebody sues us, we're going to defend it as long as it's defensible. And then if we come to the point where it's not defensible, then we need to look.
And if we get to the point where we get 2, 3 things, then we can drop the site. Do it right then.
Well, and me personally, if we get one, for the time being, we nix it until the state gets it figured out and they change the law, because I'm not willing to take we are enabling the state to do what they call unfunded mandates.
Well, yeah.
Is what we are doing. And there's just, besides the fact that we could kind of get our website. And I think we have a good website. Don't get me wrong. I think our website is I've always been able to use it a lot. That's why I told Leaf, I said, since I left the district, you probably haven't had as many calls about certain things because I always use.
Well, and even me and what my use of the website, I loved it when I could pull up about anything historical or not, if something came up and I could run a search on our website and I could find old documents. I might find historical documents from the 90s that I needed to need for different things. That's kind of I hate seeing these websites. So.
Me too. But I guess the other thing is I'm not willing to put more of our current staff's time at this.
Right.
They've got enough other stuff to do right now. They're up to here and things are falling through the cracks by nobody's fault besides this.
So, I agree with that, but I don't think anybody's saying that.
One thing, I do have the analytics up, and on March 30th alone, we had 3,124 hits on our website. That's a lot of hits. And if even 1% of those people, or even 0.5% of those people are litigious, and if we don't have Converge Accessibility go through and tell us how, if we're at 30% or we at 60%, and we're not wanting to spend the money towards that and keep the website up, how do we know how urgent the need is? Or how am I doing with this correct? How big of a risk it is to have that specific current website up and going. And then there are other days, like on March 29th, we only had 122 users. So it really varies based on the day. So that's one day apart. So.
Vicki, how long would it take to get this advertised and hired?
And one other, is regarding the ADA website accessibility claims. The county would have our capped coverage. However, if the requirements are not met and or a good faith effort has not been made, as in any situation with a legal requirement, the county would be jeopardizing their liability coverage. Each claim is reviewed on its own circumstances in order to determine if there will be coverage through.
Okay.
And then they go on to say that they are still currently working on updating information and they're sending it out to counties.
on this.
Some point.
So first,
I did reach
if
out
we're
to them and
showing,
find out.
Yeah, as long as we're doing what we're supposed to do, it's kind of like any of our liability insurance. As long as we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, if we do get exposed to liability, it sounds like we're covered. On thing, which is good. I like that. And, you know, and the bad thing going on what you're saying is that the state has pushed this out without the technology or the backing to allow us to do it. And it's not only, you know, in this county, and it's all the towns and the cities, the special districts. And that's where I think it's most vulnerable. The little special districts out there, the little cemetery district that's got a website that got no money for that type of stuff. They're the guys that are really going to get. I mean, we get hit a couple of times, you know, we'll defend it through either the insurance proceeds or me. And then at some point we'll just say, okay, this is either we're good or this is a bad a penny and we're going to do away with it. But the special districts, they're a lot of them are just so exposed right now. I'm worried me, I'll represent them, but I still don't want to see them get killed.
this whole thing just is so blatantly unfair and whatever. If I can't see it, nobody else can see it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the way some of these ADA compliant.
Yeah, it's,
And I believe in reasonable accommodation.
I do too.
I believe in that strongly. I believe in trying to do what you can do within reason to make things accessible. But this super just where we don't have technology in order to do it, we're taking away from everybody.
And I think going back to, you know, that statement that what is convenience and what is transparent versus, you know, how easy is something to get to. None of this information is going away. The official information will continue to always be held by the clerk and recorder. It's been there for as long as Rio Blanco County's been in existence. It's still there. We're one of the very few counties that's not had a courthouse fire where the documents have been destroyed.
just taking it.
Yeah, there's a
So, I
lot of
mean,
them.
You know, so by and large, everything, I don't know,
We may have lost them, moving them around.
Yeah.
We-
yeah,
Or they may have disappeared from road and bridge.
yeah, that's road thing. But, so again, that's the difference between, you know, accessibility and convenience and that type of thing. So there is,
Jennifer, you've been pretty quiet.
Just think.
I'm still stuck on the policy. I'm not feeling satisfied with, I mean, you guys say that there's one. I want to know, when was it last written? Does it include the 6 criteria that OIT has put out there for the accessibility planning core criteria? I didn't approve it, or I don't remember approving it. I even went back through emails trying to find it since being a commissioner, unless I missed it somewhere along the way.
that was an internal operational policy by the accessibility team. It was never presented to the board. I thought I have sent that to you. With the quarterly update. But I can certainly, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
But yes, it was, and in light of it was, we did receive Converge Accessibility helped us to write that and said, yes, this meets all the criteria, change this, change that. They made several recommendations. No, you need to fluff this up. They just did that on the most recent quarterly update that's on the website. No, I really think you need to change this verbiage to that, because if you're saying this link needs to be directed to that. And so.
Because our policy is what's going to save us at the end of the day, from what I'm reading on. And I'm trying not to overthink all of this. And I feel like this conversation keeps going around and around and around with the overthinking. We need to make it as simple as possible right now and not overthink it, so that we are, one, I agree, we need to be looking at, you know, what is that? How does it integrate with health, safety, and welfare? How does it? And we can all day long say that, but it's still not going to stop if somebody wants to go to our website and put us at risk of putting some litigation towards us. So it will or won't happen, but I guess I have to agree that we leave the website up. But I'm also with Kelly, one time we get hit and we're done. We need to take it offline and be done with it. Because, I mean, to hear those statistics, you've got from 100 and what to 3,000 and what
Yeah.
in one day's
Yeah,
time.
6,000
Different
people.
days, yeah.
Well, yeah, and that was my thing was like, with 6,000 people in the county, that means that half of every person in the county was on there, your equivalent of. That means that,
Either that or I was doing the research.
I was gonna say, there was probably a lot.
Say, is that,
If you look, a lot of that is,
Internally.
outside of the country.
Oh, really?
There's,
Outside of the country? Why would they be looking at Rio Blancos?
Right. I agree.
the Nigerian hackers.
And we have
There
seen
are,
that in the
yeah.
past where it was like all over, like a lot of Russian,
There's,
like
there's a lot of,
European countries, a lot of
a
African.
lot of those hits might be from automated systems that are searching for people's information, phone numbers, so. There's a lot of bad acting.
Okay.
and so I don't think we need to react that those people are looking for a problem on our
We
website.
just don't know why.
So I guess I'm not as worried about that.
We do get a lot of hits on certain pages, like jobs, taxes, or property,
Property.
and webcam, and we get a lot of hit on those things from people who have family in the county or used to live in the county, but are not anymore. So there's a lot of hits from around the states. Even the nice people who are just curious, checking out things, check for jobs.
Renee's tax stuff. Is that the county owned?
It is, and we have a statement from the provider that they're working on it. It's part of, I think it's included in the policy. I can't remember.
It's in the matrix.
So they are working on that, and they are working on rebuilding that so that it is.
As Leaf said the same thing. He said, well, as long as it's on a third party, we're not liable, but that's not true from what,
As long as it's county data, we're liable.
yeah, which it is, yeah.
If we're
So-
hiring a third party to do what we do, then we're liable. If it's a third party, that's just, that's. For example, we have a link to the hospital plan for some reason, we have our public health. I don't think we're liable for that because they're going to another, of course, that's another government entity. So
So I guess what I'm thinking, and so we're in April, it'll be May before we have another meeting where we can actually make a final decision. And then we've got to the end of June, and we can't expect to have this new person up and functioning. And that's if we had good luck finding somebody on the first search and have them making any big changes before the end of June. So here we sit with a website that we know there is stuff out there that's not compliant. Are you guys willing to leave it out there then, is what I'm hearing you say? And then just have this person build on it from there? And
Or
I mean-
parallel it. Start with another one and parallel that one until, because we honestly don't know. And I don't. We might get hit the first week and take it down. We might go a year and a half, 2 years.
well, and we may never get hit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not one to be thinking that we are gonna get hit. But at the same time, where do we balance that? So, I mean, personally, I'd rather just get started fresh and we know where we're at and we know what we got, but what have you guys thoughts? So I guess with that being said, if we're gonna leave it up, then what are we expecting of our current staff between now and June 30th? Because we don't have somebody else on staff. What are we expecting them to do?
Maintain status quo. I don't want them to waste any more time on it. I want our due diligence is going to be getting this new person online and coming along to take over that. And I think that would be acceptable if I were looking at progress.
I certainly think that, that definitely helps. That's good evidence that we have that we're, and it's not only that, but we've hired Converge Accessibility. We've gone to, website crawls. We got how many?
We haven't done a website.
We've done quarterly updates, we've done the policies.
Yeah, we've done the policies. We've done all of this stuff. And then this on top of that, saying, okay, this is how we're going to continue to make progress and do it. I feel pretty, I mean, you never know what the judge is going to do or jury's going to do, but I feel pretty confident that that's a good step in the right direction towards progress. And when I'm presenting evidence of well, reasonable efforts, for one, that's part of what I do. Is it's like, okay, what have we done in order to make this happen? And I think that's, I like having that.
Vicky, real quickly. What progress have we made since this past quarterly update? That was in March, correct?
March 31st.
So from there until June 30th, we will have to make more progress, correct?
Well, if even if since we're hiring someone, that would be considered it.
So we're
That's
posting
big
it out
progress,
at this
yeah.
meeting. Had Converge work on. Those eight.
And I just need to know if we're gonna have them do that, because if we've not paid them for that. So I need to know if you want them to do, because we have not, and I want to be very clear about this, we have not done any website crawling. It's been solely Chrissy and I looking at a page, clicking on a couple of links and going through. So we've not had, and none of that has been with a screen reader or any kind of anything other than me looking at it and saying, oh, that link doesn't work.
And doing that does you no good at all unless you've got some way or somebody to fix it.
Right.
And so I wouldn't suggest you do anything with that until you get this person hired and then attack it so that you've got a way to remediate it instead of just finding out. Then you lose a bunch of sleep.
And do we have a way that it's locked down so nobody can be adding anything to the website at this point?
Yes, all right. I was
We
gonna
did
say,
that a long time ago.
I'm basically the only one that's been adding anything to the website, and I make sure that we do have like if it's a PDF, we have the remediation documentation. Or I actually manually type it into the webpage so that I can make sure that like we had landfill. Instead of them giving out the little postcard free things, they just have free weekends, and it had like this fun little background and stuff like that that had been created, but that we could not make accessible. So I went ahead and ended up typing all of that in so that it was on the website. But I mean, it takes time, and so yeah, there's still going to be things that will keep being updated if it's still up there, and then I will have to be spending time until the next person or this new person gets hired. And if it's like some of our positions, they're open for months.
Do we update our policy that when this position is hired, that person becomes our
I think you
compliance
appoint,
officer?
I think you appoint them, the compliance officer and then just change everything there.
Sorry.
I did just
Good thought.
put that in the job description, and I said you
Saw
could
that,
yeah.
maybe bump it a little.
But yeah, I don't think that having it in the policy is gonna help that we have something really take place.
Well, and like I say, and I agree, I think we need to look at that policy, and I think we probably need to adopt the policy.
I would agree.
I mean, this one that might be a good one to adopt by this year.
And like I say, Yeah.
There'd be more progress in this quarter.
So in other words, Vicky and Chrissy, no more trolling.
Well, and I think this is getting under the bridge at least. It's a relief for me because I do feel like, one of those things, those balls trying to keep it up in the air and not like, the county down. And so we've tried, fitting things in, and if we see something major, it's like, oh my gosh, okay, well, let me spend time on that. I took off a couple days last month, I think it was in March, before we did the update to make sure the policy was updated. It's been uploaded onto the website, went over it with Converge Accessibility. They made some recommendations. We had to make those changes.
not having that on my plate will be huge, as well as I think Chrissy's. And, we still, if we can just go that way and then.
So on the website, do we need to go ahead and put the, the verbiage of if come July 1st, we do receive legislator litigation? Have we?
No,
like,
no. We don't want to do anything like that. We want to have our policy. We want to give this demonstrator thing. We don't want to do anything in anticipation for potential litigation as far as what we say.
But Doug talked about putting a message up on the website. So what do you anticipate that looking like?
So you could leave it open-ended.
To call your legislator is what you
we are-
need to do.
We're trying to comply with this and
And I think that's on there, isn't it?
I will no, that is not on there. And Donna, I'll need you to review that because I was thinking that there is something in there that says we cannot say that.
We're
But I
not,
don't know.
yeah, we're not supposed to say that. We're not supposed to say that we're doing it simply because of the state, of the House bill. We're.
Oh, they don't want us to say that.
Yeah.
Of course not.
For them back. They do the-
that's in the bill that they said that.
It's probably,
Well,
maybe
it's
an
not
OIT.
referring back to the representatives, but our policy has to be crafted to where we're talking about what we're doing to remediate, not
Not blame somebody.
not blame.
Well, the policy is fine,
Yeah,
but
the
to put it
policy-
on the bottom of the page
Yeah.
to say if you are unhappy with the accessibility, with the lack of accessibility, because you've got the language on here. You've got, please contact our accessibility coordinator at this number or email for assistance. They'll direct you to the appropriate staff who can provide you help.
Right.
And so
what's-
that's pretty clear.
If you're unhappy with this, say, accessibility policy, please call the legislator.
No, that's what I'm thinking.
That we can't do that.
We have to be really careful about how we do it. Now, we can't be part of our policy. Can't be part of our excuse.
Well, and so then,
Yeah, they've limited to some.
And you guys are putting the report. You said you guys do put the report of what we've been progressing on. Okay.
Yes, it's on the website. Yeah. If you're on the Rio Blanco County website, you can just type ADA and it should come up. And it comes up quarterly. Off to the left-hand side, there's all the quarterly reports since the first one was in July, which we're required to keep out and available on the website.
That fundamentally is wrong.
it
I
is
agree.
so frustrating.
This whole thing's been wrong.
And I just say we're enabling them to do more. Okay. So I think at our next meeting, we need to have some kind of full-fledged policy that we approve as commissioners. And so we'll look at what you guys have got, add to it if we feel like we need to somehow.
Well, and I think there can be two different things. One is what we put on the website, which is very specific as to that. And then the other can be an internal policy about, what we do when we get a complaint, whether we remediate, whether, how we're going to go forward with this. We may want to look at having our front-facing policy on the website that's got the requirements versus how you guys want to deal with certain aspects of the potential problems.
When do we post the position?
Yesterday. But I think we
You're
need to
gonna-
look at it carefully.
You're gonna fluff up the compliance.
Actually, it looks good.
Oh, you already did. Okay.
Sure.
Is there any,
Look up too, like a couple bullet points, because we talk about them doing some training too, but if it all goes through them. But
wouldn't hurt.
maybe the training is to teach other employees how to remediate, and then
Yeah.
they just have to check
Yeah.
it and then put it on the website.
I think so.
I
I
would
think,
change
Because they.
No,
will be able to do
employee-
All of the remediation.
I don't think we give employees access to put stuff on the website.
No.
Oh,
But if they had a piece of paper that they could remediate in their office, send it to this
Oh.
person per check.
Sure.
And then they put it on the website if it's approved.
So that when you lose that person,
If
got people that
if
are
this
ready to roll.
person had to do all of our documents, that's a lot. Where some of us could do our own.
Yeah.
And send to them for approval. And they put it on.
and Garfield said they're doing a lot of training amongst their staff too, for that very reason, I think. And I don't know if they let others put their own stuff on there. Yeah, at least on my notes.
I would recommend that there be at least a second person that can edit the website. So that if this person goes on vacation or whatever else, and if there is an issue or they leave, then there's somebody else as backup that, you know, is able to fix something or change it if need be.
So where are we at with, the three of us with this job description? I'm looking it over. I've looked it over several times today.
If you guys have any other comments or changes or anything, if we say by Thursday morning, and if there's nothing else, then we'll make your changes and post it. Are we good with that idea?
I am.
So we'll plan to post it Thursday morning.
And are we posting this out like on?
We're gonna have to go out because we're gonna have to.
Yeah, be sure it's done locally, make sure it's good local just coverage as well, but yeah, go far and wide with it too. One of the questions that they have asked me about, how does the person need to be here and that kind of thing. I think if there's at all possible, we move in that direction, but understanding that it may or may not be possible. Because again, I want to make sure that we're all, at least in my opinion, this person for a little while is going to be pretty heavily focused on this. But I'm hopeful that eventually at least 50% of their time is going to be other communication kinds of
And
things.
some communication could be local where you're going to events.
Just getting
Person.
Yeah, I
county information out.
want them to be local because I want them to take some of the stress.
Am I stressed out, Doug?
And you can't do that when you're in a. Well, I didn't mean that wrong.
Anything else?
It's one last thing
Okay.
that, you keep saying communications and broadband is the communications department, correct?
We have three communications. So dispatch is the communications center. Broadband is the communications department. And then there's.
I can see where that would be for me, it has been confusing, so.
We've been working towards making broadband the broadband department and not communications.
That would be awesome.
We have been working.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
Kelly
like,
and I
good.
discussed it this morning, and so that's why we kind of changed it to the
There's some
communications. Public, or let's see.
It was going to take,
Public communications coordinator.
Well, then there's public radio communications, which is the public radio section of the tower site. That's also within operation.
now remember what,
Vicky, where are you at in this? Are you?
But
There's
happy to
some-
choose them.
I don't,
yeah,
me, it
we
doesn't
need to.
matter what we
this is
call the
what we need to
person, as long as that, it's kind of, I think when we talked about the person being like a public information officer, but it needed to be more than just this person talking to the public. It was more, going through the commissioners,
Yeah.
copy, but the main thing is that, how do we say it? Accessibility
Coordinator.
technology
Technology coordinator.
technology coordinator.
because there's two, because I'm the ADA coordinator. Employee wise, like they need an accommodation to do their job at work. Versus the technology side, which is not me.
So the important part about what you call it is the kind of person you're going to attract. Because when you put that job out there, if the title doesn't fit what they're capable of doing, they're not going to look at it. So that's where the title is important, is because it's who you're going to attract.
Well, you can change the title after you get them hired. I mean, if that's what you're looking.
I think public information coordinator, my mind puts you in the right now.
Public information.
Public information.
Is that what we had talked about
That's
too?
what we got, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But Vicky, I'm in a little bit more broad, this whole thing. What we did here in this deal, are you?
I think when, we go through our little training or at the end of the month, the 28th, you'll see my profile. I'm very risk averse. So that's just kind of one of my, so it to me, and being a paralegal, I see the risk in everything. And so I'm very risk averse. It's not my call to make though. I mean, mine would be unplug it and figure out till you fix it. And then we check it and then we double check it and then we plug it back in. That's not necessarily feasible, but that's just,
But we're taking that, we're doing that, so
Uh-huh.
it should let up on you a little bit.
right. That doesn't mean that I don't, I mean, I still concern myself with it.
Panic about it.
I still panic about it. Not panic, but yeah, so it's not just, I can continue to look at it and rationalize and say, again, this is passing that decision to you guys. As far as I feel like, to me, it does help tremendously that I can now say, okay, I don't have to think about that and continue to push this or to try and work on it, because that relieves me of, I don't say relieves me of liability, but it does pull me out of that world, that I have a valid excuse not to focus on this. Does that make sense?
Yes, we have told you
Very
do
much
not focus
Yeah,
on it.
I know.
You know what song I'm gonna play for you every time you start going that direction?
Good.
Frozen's Let It Go.
I know that song.
I do too. And so I am just gonna play it when Vicky starts going down that road.
Never heard it. So.
Are you kidding me?
You haven't seen that? Oh my gosh. Oh, that's one of my favorite movies.
It's a Disney movie.
I love that.
So you'll know when your weekly meeting is over with Jim, because that song's gonna start.
Exactly,
Uh-huh.
exactly. My motto. You're absolutely correct.
And we appreciate that about you. And as we are all going to learn how DISC and how we can all work with each other when we have these big meetings with DISC.
I really enjoy getting the insights, because once you have all the, especially the Enneagram and the other one, the DISC assessment, it really does. You see
It
everybody.
really
kind of-
opens up if you just do all the assessments.
If you do all of them, yeah,
Cool stuff. Cool information.
which takes a little more time.
I can see that with these two. The stuff that they bring on and then the stuff they bring up.
It makes sense.
It's dead on.
Uh-huh.
One of my favorite things is daily. You get a daily insight, and you can sign up to get daily insights on everybody, and it'll say, this person interprets it that way. Make sure you're giving them room to do X, Y, or Z, or make sure you're listening and make sure you're, so.
Well, this guy is not gonna do that ever, give up on it.
It was this morning,
I-
actually.
I think it was called, well, never mind, I won't go there. We could have way too much fun with this. There's another one that's not on there. It's called True Colors. Have you ever done True Colors?
Yes, I'm a yellow. Well, I was a yellow. I don't know. I may
Oh,
have
yeah,
changed colors.
or gold. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gold as they go.
And I've seen one that it's how you put together a swing set. Do you build your own swing set? Do you get the box home and you open it up and you inventory all the pieces and then you put it together? And there's never a missing piece. Then I was in the group that said you have a pizza party and let someone else put it together.
I'll just throw it away. Why do I need to?
Exactly.
I've got it all put together and then go read the instruction because I got a piece of.
Compete, right? That is definitely, and that, you kind of think of those things, where people fall. Now, see, I typically would make sure I'd either have a pizza party or I'd be the one that inventories all the pieces and I sort them out and I number them and I make sure I count, read the instructions first before you do anything. Then you read them again and then you start, and
That you might be a little green too then, because that's the accountant type. is
then
the green. Gold is the rule to follow. Or Jennifer's blue.
Blue. Did I already take that one? I've taken a lot of them. I just don't know which ones.
I don't think it's in there.
Oh, it's not.
I don't think it's in there.
Oh, okay. So I was like, there was so many.
Doug's probably the green is a little green too. In food colors. Because it's like it's an accountant kind of
Oh, yes.
thing. Blue is all about
So-
feelings.
Are we done with the meeting?
Oh, I'm so not about feelings.
I guess we are.
Oh, we're
Until
done.
3, right?
Till 3. Yep, we'll be back at 3.
Are we